Hello, and welcome to Scuttlebutt, the War Movie Review Podcast. We're happy to have you with us as we take a look at films from the dawn of cinema to today. We aim to provide a raw and unapologetic review of each film's cinematography, historical accuracy, and delivery. In the process of analysis, certain details will be revealed. These spoilers are only divulged to ensure a fair assessment of each film. We ship out to Nam this week with Oliver Stone's 1986 Vietnam War epic, Platoon. As always, I'm joined by Mike A.
Hello.
Mike B.
Hey.
And Nate.
You know, I'm somewhat of a scientist myself.
So, guys, do you think we should do the whole village or just half the village?
Ooh.
I would say the whole village.
Okay, Bunny. But,
That scene, man.
yeah, you know, don't really need much of an intro. If you haven't heard of this movie, you either, are like a time traveler from before 1986 or like you live under a rock. So, Platoon just kind of speaks for itself. So much has been said about this film. Good, bad, the ugly, for so many different reasons, right and wrong. And
There's been so many reviews,
yeah, it's like if anybody's really seen a war film, it's probably Platoon, especially if you're like a Gen Z or Xer.
Well, and here's the thing is like, I do want to mention this is like, this came from, I put a poll on my YouTube community tab thing. And I was like, hey, what war film would you like us to review next? Or like, not necessarily in that order, but like, hey, and then it was overwhelmingly Platoon. I don't remember the percentage, but like, and a lot of comments were, yeah, it's been done before, but we'd like to hear your comments on it. And
Yep.
So, yeah, it definitely. So that's why we're doing this. A big reason because
11.2 thousand people voted. 70% of the 16,000 voted for Platoon.
Yep.
So here we are.
And there was a shitload of comments, and it's like, okay, I'll do it. Even though I've seen this film many times, and all of us, I think, have.
All except for one, actually. Can you guess?
Nathan?
Sorry, I was typing.
Sorry, I didn't watch the movie.
I guess. I don't know. No, I had never seen it before. I've always seen clips on TNT, and it was like that movie where I wanted to see it all these years, but then it's not free. I don't want to pay for it.
Yeah. But really quick, I had to ask: did you watch the whole thing?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we're good.
That's why we do this.
You did the whole village, man.
Yeah.
You fucking did it.
I did the.
Sure.
I did the whole village.
You just want to make sure you're done. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I did the whole village and
went in the
exploded
tunnel,
all the weapons.
got a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Okay, well that actually gives context to like the conversation we're about to have because okay, cool.
Yeah, no, I mean like
appreciate that.
yeah, no, I mean I'd seen clips over the years. I had seen like a quarter of the movie.
Yeah, of course, yep.
But I never saw it start to finish, and then I never wanted to go half-assed, so I'd always change the channel after it's a slow part of the movie. But no, it was very interesting. I can see a lot of references, and Tropic Thunder makes so much more sense to me now. even lines from Tropic Thunder are from Platoon, which makes so much more sense for some of the things. Like, if the machine breaks down, we break down. And then he said that line, and I just like, oh, that's what Robert Downey Jr. says when he's trying to pump Ben Stiller up and goes, do you lift? Do you lift? Give me that. He takes the mat from him. So it's like, that's when he says that. So I always thought that was like a line that I laughed at from Tropic Thunder, but no, that's from Platoon. So it was really funny to go through that and finding all the lines.
That's always a great moment when you get a joke in reverse to where like you've always like known that reference, but you've never seen what they're referencing. But then you eventually watch it and you're like, oh my god, it's like a light bulb goes off.
Well, I mean, like the obvious ones, like Ben Stiller taking all the hits and him throwing his hands in the air. Like, yeah, no, I knew that was from Platoon. Like, I knew that. That's why I laughed, because I
famous
always seen
shot.
those clips. I just whacked my mic again. Goddamn, second week in a row, Nate. Jesus
Good
Christ.
work.
So,
Brian's overloading his fucking mic.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So I got those references, but like the single lines and some of the characters, it totally makes sense what Tropic Thunder was drawing from, and it just made me laugh even more. in terms of realizing it was from Tropic Thunder. Not that Platoon was funny, but the fact that Tropic Thunder was stealing a lot from that and taking a lot of references
Sick
from
fuck.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Cackle laugh when they took on the whole village. So yeah, there you go.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it was very interesting to see all that, like you just said, Mike, like a joke in reverse and getting all those references. And then really liking a lot of the characters and the character development, and then watching them all just get immediately taken out, like at the very end, which is interesting. Like, I'll just jump right into that. But like, I wasn't expecting the psychotic bunny guy and or Jared to be killed like so just like that. Like, it wasn't like, oh, Last Stand. Like, I get it, some of them were killed like that, but like, I thought like Jared would just be knocked out, and then all of a sudden some dude's just like, poking holes in him, and it's just like, oh Jesus, like that was, whoa. So like things like that. So it was I think it was really well done, and I liked it. But it definitely is a Vietnam movie in the 80s. So yeah.
Well, and that's not a bad thing, because it's
No.
very fresh in the minds of, you know what I mean?
Well, one more thing, because it just jogged my memory. One
Yep.
more thing I would like to say is that I think this movie set in a lot of the cliches that we see for the next 20 years.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And I think that is what I mean. And I think that's what I draw from seeing this movie the most, is that I am seeing the start of the clone copies of
Yes.
them trying to replicate the success of this film.
Correct.
Which
Yep.
I think is where I see a lot of the cliche things when it happens. I'm like, oh, come on. Like, or, oh man, okay, it's doing that. And then I had to think about it and go, well, this is probably what set that course. So give it a second and then see how it plays out before you kind of react to it.
It's like there's a funny show, The Flight of the Conchords, and if anybody's seen it, and in one of the shows, like, this guy becomes really famous because they make like the song and everything. They make all this money, and they're like, "Fuck you!" They leave the main characters behind. And like a few episodes later, they come back and they're like, "Oh, we're in trouble." Like, what do you mean? And they have a music video of the song they made. Like, well, we made this, but these assholes ripped us off 30 years ago with the same exact thing. What the fuck? And it was like this funny case of like, well, this Polish band, they copied us in the 70s, but it's just funny where the real origin of things lie.
And also seeing and also getting a lot more of the music. I've heard that music, that theme that they used constantly in a bunch of other things, and not realizing that was ever from Platoon. So then that made it, like, again, it's like, I like how, I'm going to say it again because I like how Mike A said it, but it's like getting jokes in reverse. Like, oh, that's why that's funny. Or, oh, that's why that was interesting. So, like, yeah. So, no, that's my
What I
quick
think is
little intro.
actually funny about this is released on December 24th, 1986. This is a Christmas movie release.
Oh, I didn't know that.
like-
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's like, fucking, hey, dude, let's go to Vietnam.
That's
I just got like a Cabbage
interesting
Patch
release
Kid.
date.
Fuck yeah, be great.
Wow.
Daddy, what did you do in Plyku?
I'll also say Tiger Blood is real, man. Jesus Christ! Like, just watching
Here
him
come the
act.
Sheen jokes.
Yeah, watching him act, man. I'm just like, oh god.
I
You
think
didn't think he was good? You didn't like him, Nate?
Yeah. I
All
don't
right,
know.
we'll get to that. Okay, Nate, you've gotten your opening fucking statements.
Yeah.
Mike A.
So this was a movie that I've seen it. I haven't seen it a ton. I've seen it maybe like 3 or 4 times, and I didn't see it until I was I don't know, like in high school. I think I didn't see it until a little bit later. Like most films that I grew up with, I had seen when I was a kid and all that stuff. But this was kind of a little bit later, and I think it's very well done. Like I said, I get all of the like, oh, this set the precedent for this, type of thing, and I get that. I don't necessarily love this movie. I don't cherish it. Kind of like what I said last week about Glory. It's not nearly on the same level, but like this, I think it's a very well done movie. But I don't know. For me, like Oliver Stone, he has 3 Vietnam War films, and like just Born on the 4th of July, I think is just better, and I kind of stick to that one when it comes to his stuff, and but I think it's still real. I mean, I get it. I get why it's so big and why it was so influential and famous at the time and so powerful. I mean, it is very powerful in many parts. Good, solid movie. But I'm not like a huge, like, oh my God, Platoon is the ultimate war movie. I'm not like that.
There are a lot of those people too.
I know, that's why, and yeah, that was probably my reluctance to like really like it when I first saw it. Because when I first saw it, I was like, I don't get what the big deal is. But then I saw it a few other times, and and that was part of it, is that people would just like rave about this movie, like, oh my God, Platoon, this and that. And so I was like, I mean, I like Apocalypse Now and things like that. Let's see what this is all about. And yeah, I was like, not exactly the same, but but over the years, I've watched it more with like just trying to clear my mind of my perspective at the time when I saw it, and I've grown to appreciate it more every time I watch it. But at the same time, it's like I gotta kind of put myself in the time period when I watch it, when it came out, if that makes sense.
This film for Vietnam is what SPR is for World War II,
right,
in my opinion. Or at least growing up, that's what it always was. Because like if you talk to a Vietnam vet, 99% of the time, somebody'd be like, "Well, have you seen Platoon?" It's like same vice versa. Where like if you meet an ETO vet or World War II vet in general, be like, "Oh, have you seen Saving Private Ryan?" Like it was kind of the standard it had with like the general public. It's like if you're gonna have seen a Vietnam War film, this would have been it at some point, or my friend saw it, or I saw a VHS tape and then whatever. Like it's just interesting how this like permeated through culture, or American culture at least, because like you're saying, there's a lot of other Vietnam War films at the time. When did what was it? Casualties of War come out?
That was
the late 80s.
87, I think. 87, 88.
Okay, yeah. Because you have Apocalypse Now come out, which is like they started filming it before Saigon fell.
Yeah.
And then like and then you have like a little bit of a lag period, and then mid 80s, late 80s, you have a ton of Vietnam like esque things on. Like especially for television, you have Tour of Duty, which was this huge TV show that spanned multiple seasons about guys in the country in the 80s. You had China Beach, which was about friggin' U.S. nurses at China Beach. It had like 4 or 5 seasons. So like the late 80s was this like prime, or mid to late 80s was prime time for like America to be like, well, let's open that wound and talk about it.
Yeah.
And everyone really tried to talk about it in a different way. Like the TV shows took the MASH approach. Like, oh, haha, and this kind of really took that serious approach of this, like, it's not like, Born on the 4th of July where you get like a very big aspect of the war. It's just, a dilution of a lot of experiences for the 15 whatever years we were in country to just 2 hours. So it really did, in a way, like it didn't care about battles, even though the Battle of Sui Cut, which they cover at the end, was a real battle. It was just kind of more about an experience, which is what Vietnam is, because there's a million different Vietnam wars, because every guy that went in country had a different Vietnam war, and that's the reason I think also vets don't like this film as a whole, because everyone had their own experiences. We didn't do that in K-52 Platoon. Well, fucking that's because each platoon had their own different war. And this is one platoon's war. This isn't your platoon's war. This isn't your buddy's platoon's war. This is their war, and it's just interesting, that's why this film just is so divisive with so many people. Like, just mention Platoon on a Vietnam veterans Facebook page and just see the thousands of comments. Tom Berenger was a fucking whatever,
I mean, kind of a cultural phenomenon of the time, almost with this like this side of things, war veterans and such.
Oh yeah, for sure. And again, like we saw what it did later on for films, like Nate saying like, "Oh, I didn't know that Machine Quote was from this or that." And the one thing I thought was interesting that I realized this time around was I saw a lot of similarities between like the fight around the ruins they go to the VC bunker complex before the last big battle in the rain where Elias dies, and the Forrest Gump battle. Like, I was like, holy shit, this is very similar,
But there's a lot of
and I didn't really make
those
those
like Vietnam, like, but yes,
no, but like the
yeah, but,
like,
as far as cinema, yes,
yeah, I think a lot of was influenced from that, in a not necessarily a bad way, but I thought that was kind of interesting. So,
I had never seen Casualties of War. I've never seen Casualties of War. I just looked it up.
We'll get to it.
We should definitely do that one.
It's interesting. I'll say that.
I didn't know Michael J. Fox was actually in a Vietnam film. That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like
Yeah,
his big
definitely
serious
was.
movie.
Yeah,
Mike,
Back to Vietnam.
it's a pretty fucked up movie. But like, yeah.
okay. Well,
It doesn't look
yeah,
a lot like Vietnam though, from what I remember. Like walking on train tracks a lot and shit. And it's been a long time.
I think
since
there's
I've
one
seen
scene
it,
where
but-
they are.
Yeah, there's all. The trailer's got the majority of it's like screaming Sean Penn and Michael
It
J.
was
Fox, and
it's
then lots of
John C.
train
Riley's first movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Mike B, you want to jump in your intro and then we'll dive in?
Well, the intro, like, I do wanna kind of like touch on what Brian was talking about. Of like, yes, I've heard the same thing, and like a lot of Vietnam vets have been like, well, Platoon is the closest thing, but also in any war, okay, that you talk to vets from, most of those guys are not going to be combat vets. Like in the 25th ID in '67, in what the should we cut, right?
Yep.
All right. They're not going to be there, and they're going to go, it was close. Just wasn't what I went through. Well, yeah, of course. It's a movie, right? And it's like you can't get anything pinned down. And most of the people that I've actually, the Vietnam vets that I've heard say, yeah, the closest thing is Platoon. You got to watch it. I find out later they were like pogues, like just, and it's not like diminishing their service or anything like they did or whatever. It's just like, yeah, the biggest piece of action you saw is the last time your finger poked through the toilet paper when you were wiping your ass. Like, yes, that's the most action you saw in Vietnam is when your finger poked through that. But like, it's fine. But a lot of these guys are like, yeah, go see Platoon. So it's like it skews the reality of it. And like the combat vets that I've met from Vietnam, the actual combat vets, very few and far between, because you got to think about it this way. In the Army, right? Just the Army, not any other branch. About 90% of people are support. 10% of people are direct support to the guys that are doing this shit. Like the aviation guys, the fucking whatever. Actually going out and doing that shit. So you've got less than 10% of the entire population of the military in a combat zone doing combat shit. So how are they going to accurately be able to tell you how combat, like we see in Platoon, was? And that's the thing that you have to think about. Like, again, not disparaging anything that any of these people did that were, in country doing their thing, but like the guys that are combat vets, they've said, yeah, it's okay, it's close. And I'm like, okay, that's an accurate answer. And it's like, it doesn't take anything away from the film, because Oliver Stone was a combat vet. He actually did his time. He has been there, done that. But like, to portray it on the film, on a big screen, and sell it, and make it really good, is a very hard thing. And so, I guess my long-winded rant is, yes, a lot of people have said it's the closest thing we can get to the experience of a combat infantryman in Vietnam. But it's a movie. And it's like, okay, that's fine. Like, I get it. Yeah, so bottom line is, like, I've heard that thing a million times. I also respect the film, how it was made. These guys spent a shitload of time in the Philippines, right? Training for this. That's where it was filmed. It's not good. It's fucking... the physical exertion you have to do to be an infantryman, especially in a jungle environment, is insane. And these guys actually portrayed that very well, because, at the beginning of the film, he gets sick and he falls out, basically. And he's like, whatever. But the guys know how to treat him, and it's good. And, yeah, there's a lot of details that were good. There's a lot of things that were just kind of like, well, we only have so much time to portray this.
In terms of like CG in the film, it was funny. There's a few things that kind of stood out. There were some weird green screens and stuff like that. I guess I'll jump into editing and stuff like that, going off into that idea. But there was the editing wasn't it was funny. It was very there was nothing cinematography wise that made me go, oh whoa. It just felt very much like, well, that was well done, and that was well done, and that was well done. And it's mostly almost all of the pyrotechnics is all, practical. There's, flashes across the screen, but that's like Star Wars flashes of the time. There was one special effects scene in this movie that made me laugh my ass off, was the shot of the jet going across the sky
slowly, like,
which
like that.
like not even going like straight. It was like going on like an angle,
Yeah.
like 45 degrees, moving slowly.
Maybe
across
cut to
the
that for just
sky.
like 1.5 seconds, and that's it.
It was like a space. It was like a UFO spaceship
Yeah.
gliding across. Yeah,
Yes,
This
beautiful.
is before they made Jurassic Park, so remember where we are.
yeah. Well, it just looked like someone had like a little model airplane going like.
The Filipinos were using their F-4 Phantoms
I
against
thought
the
that-
real insurgents.
I saw the
at the
same
time,
thing when I was
so-
watching it last night. I was like, oof.
Yeah, that's the only thing that made me laugh in terms of that. I mean, like, I think it's really cool that they were able to. I don't know where they filmed this. I forgot to look
Philippines.
it up. Was it the Philippines? Okay.
They filmed Apocalypse Now in the Philippines. They filmed this in the Philippines. The way you could tell when both films is just funny is that the helicopter pilots wear white helmets because the Filipino Army helicopter pilots all wear white helmets. And so long story short, when they were filming, because it's kind of funny, when they were filming the Apocalypse Now, like incredible helicopter scene that cost like $2 million, one of the days they had to stop filming because the helicopters had to go fight the real insurgents.
Yeah, fight the
And
rebels.
if you watch The Heart of Darkness, which is the documentary
get up
about
and
it,
leave.
Coppola's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
And the general's like, "What do you want me to
I
do?"
got
Like,
people to kill, man. Yeah.
Yeah, like literally, it's like, why are they flying? Wait,
Yeah.
it's pretty funny. but
I remember
they
that.
all have white helmets in that film, and if you look in this, they all have white helmets in this too, which is interesting. Yeah, they filmed it in the Philippines, and it was like a crazy experience. They said the guys had a really hard time doing it and everything, and they did have boot camp and everything. And I think they filmed it in a way where, like, as people died, they left the set,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly. So like it was, there was real attrition with the platoon and things.
I mean, it comes across in their performances.
Oh yeah. I think who was I listening to? Think it was
We
the
got
guy.
Gardner so well.
Well, I think it was the guy who. I think it was O'Neill, the guy who played O'Neill, Doc Cobb from Scrubs or whatever. I can't
Cox.
remember. Cox.
Yeah.
Thank you. I couldn't remember
This
his name.
backstory makes a lot of sense for why he's such a dick.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was like, I think he was on like Howard Stern, and he was going about how like when they died, they died. They literally were forced to offset. Like you didn't get to say bye, no nothing. They were just gone. Which I thought was very interesting because that would definitely allow you to play it into your, into your character on set of the moment. Like, whatever. I don't know why I wanted to say Marcellus Wallace. God damn it.
Good old Veen Rames in this.
Forrest
We'll just run with that. We'll just run with that. Marcellus
God.
Wallace died, so Marcellus Wallace looked like a bitch and he died.
Why'd you treat him like a
Yeah,
Not good, Nate. Not good.
yeah, not good. I can't remember what the guy's name was. The guy who got like tied up and like killed downriver.
Yeah, Manny.
Manny. Okay, that's why.
Yep.
It was an M word. I'm sure like if he gets killed, it's like after a shot he just leaves, and it's like they have to react to Manny. Well, where's Manny? Manny's dead. Manny's gone. Like I didn't get to say bye to him. I didn't get to
Right.
tell that ripped dude pumping iron in the
Correct.
bunker bye. Like
Yeah, he's just dead, and then that because that's what leads to the village burning scene. That's what leads to that whole catastrophe.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm just saying like that psyche as an actor
Yeah.
playing that role.
No, that's what I mean.
to
Is like
have that, yeah.
it was so much more genuine because if they go, because like we've been on sets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if an actor just leaves, well, it's like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
Yeah, there's a
Why is
whole-
he gone?
Yeah.
No closure like in real life.
Yeah, it's like, and it's like, oh, okay, motherfucker, let's do this. Okay, fine. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Why do you have all this fucking rice? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? No, it's like, so that actually, it was really good on Stone's part or whoever made the decision to like actually get them the fuck out of there immediately, like back home. You're going back to the States. because that's how it was it's how it is in most wars. Nowadays we have social media. In Vietnam, they did not have social media. And so if this guy gets airlifted, you don't know if he survived. Okay. The guy's your best friend. You're still stuck there. And you don't know if he's dead or if he's alive or whatever. Like, Jesus Christ. And what's the reaction you're going to have from that? You're going to be pissed off.
Yeah.
Supremely pissed off.
Brian, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was talking about Reveille, but it's fine. And just as we're on the subject quickly, so another funny thing that happened was, so we can get into the subject because a lot of people don't know that it wasn't so prevalent at this point of the war, but the scene where they get high in the bunker. And in reality, you know, a bunch of the guys are like, let's get really high, like for the scene, it'd be fucking awesome. So they all smoked up and they're like, this is going to be awesome. Well, if anybody's ever been on a set, it takes a lot of time to set shit up. So by the time they arrived on, like, you know, okay, we got a 2:00 call. They got there for the call. They're ready to go. It took an hour to set up. So they're fucking stone cold sober and they're tired and groggy and pissed off by the time they have to do those scenes. So all of those scenes where they're like in the bunker and high, they're actually trying to act like they're high because they're on the come down of actually being high because of all the problems they had setting it up, which is funny.
That's fucking funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And now watching it, it's interesting to know that. And also, if you look at it, when Taylor hits the peace pipe, he doesn't exhale anything. Now, if anybody has any experience with the devil's lettuce, like that's yeah, right. that's not gonna happen.
You will exhale. You will cough as well.
Yeah, you will die of coughing for your first time. But if I had experience with that. But what do you call it? There's another scene too that's interesting. That's copied from some Vietnam War footage. It's done wrong, but the footage is of these guys in the field and they're smoking up. And they have a shotgun, and what they're doing is they're shotgunning, you know, this weed and stuff. And in the film, Elias, you know, takes the shotgun, opens it, and blows into. That's not what you do. Like reality, it's like no, they actually would have a piece that would go in the chamber that was full of weed that they would actually like blow into. Now while we're on the subject, drug prevalence or drug use in Vietnam was prevalent, and it was mostly prevalent later in the war, 69 to 72. Heroin, marijuana, yes, you do hear about marijuana earlier. And marijuana did grow in places in Vietnam just freely. There's some funny stories where guys would find it in the field and like put it in their rucks and shit, and their NCOs would be like, "Good job camouflaging." Like, yeah, camouflage, you know, like. But it's not like what people think it was. I mean, you could buy grass and shit, but there are other wars where there's a little much more weed and stuff. Like in Chechnya, they used to trade weapons for yeah, that too. I know a lot of Afghan Soviet vets that were like fucking. They used to trade like AKs for hashish and stuff. Also modern times as well.
Well,
but
dude, talking about that whole thing about, you know, not what you just said, like not as much as people think. Do you think, going back to the whole thing about how this movie, you know, invented a lot of I'm not saying like necessarily invented, but, you know, like made things more popular in terms of the overall scope of these types of stories and stuff like that. Do you think this is a directly responsible for that? For creating that whole like drug craze and all that stuff.
I think this is definitely responsible for making so many Vietnam reenactors stupid as fuck.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's just me.
No,
but
I agree. What's great about the movie is also what's bad about it, because it's basically, this film is a microcosm of Vietnam. It takes everything that occurred and puts it into one platoon's experience.
Correct.
And then you have that.
Correct.
So, you know, did every guy go and kill people and burn villages? No. Did every guy end up in this crazy fucking firefight for their life that, you know, was a huge siege? No. Did they happen sparsely in different places? Yeah, totally. But that's why, you know, when people just watch it and take it for whatever it is, it's like, oh, fucking, when Grandpa was there for a 365 and a wake up, he did all this crazy shit. And it's like, probably not. If you read a lot of memoirs, they're really funny. They usually follow like 11 months of walking, 2 weeks of like R&R, and then the firefight. It's always the firefight. You know, like, we had the big ambush that lasted 20 minutes, and that was my firefight for my tour. It was very rare for guys to have like a Tet situation or a Dak To or a Junction City or like a really big operation. Usually you're just fucking, you know, doing grunt shit. And the war changed so much. Later on, we have the strategic hamlet programs where like you're basically just like fortifying villages and stuff. I mean, that was a much different war than the early on, like A Shah Valley and stuff. Which again just plays into this whole trope of, you know, there's a million different Vietnam wars. each platoon has its own experience, and you can't just assume that this is going to get yours. They're going to know red platoons. They're going to know whatever. It's like every year, every month, every platoon had a completely different experience in this conflict, and that's why this is great and also bad in a way.
Well.
So, to answer your question a long way, yes, it does promote those tropes, but it did happen.
That's why I have kind of I have like a love-hate thing with Oliver Stone, to where like there's movies of his that I think are like really good, and then there's movies where I think that he does are just absolute dog shit.
What are other movies he's done that you can rip off, or you can tell me? I don't know much about all of them.
The ones I don't like or ones I do like?
All of them.
Just name me a few.
Okay,
JFK, dude.
Born on the 4th of July, JFK, The Doors. Let me think here. Alexander, he did that.
That fucking Colin Farrell movie.
Yeah.
Wall Street. He did Wall Street. I think
he did Wall Street, which was a really popular movie at the time. He did. Let's see here. Talk Radio is very underrated. I love Talk Radio. He did Natural Born Killers. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's written by Tarantino, but directed by him.
There's a lot. I'm hearing a lot of movies I haven't really seen before.
Right.
The ones I have seen, I didn't like.
He's done three. He's done like his Vietnam trilogy is this movie, Born on the 4th of July, and then Heaven and Earth. And in my opinion,
I've seen Heaven and Earth.
You've never seen that one? In my opinion,
when did it come out?
93. It's about the Vietnamese perspective of it. It's like
that sounds interesting.
It is, but it's
your
not.
Opinion of it.
Yeah,
now I'm intrigued, but I'm not. So.
Right. No, it stars. The main actress in it. It's about like a village, like a village girl in Vietnam, and she's experiencing the war. And eventually, as she grows up, the Vietnam War continues. She meets an American played by Tommy Lee Jones, and
I've seen that movie on TNT 20 years ago.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was not a big hit. It was
because it was Tommy Lee Jones in Vietnam. I was like, what the fuck are we doing?
Right. Yeah, and he's like an old man already.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's very like earnest when what it's trying to do, but it's just not very interesting. But in my opinion, Born on the 4th of July is his like solid movie. Like I love that movie.
Now I'm intrigued to watch that because I honestly forgot that was Oliver Stone, and I haven't seen it all the way through. And it's interesting too because it covers a Marine. I know it's a true story, but it's a different version of Vietnam, M14s and that jazz.
Yeah, well,
when
it's
you
about
do have the two scenes in country, but
there's the combat scenes. The actual like war parts are like maybe 15 minutes, and the whole movie it's about before and after. It's about how he was before the war, and then how it affected him after. And it's like these two contrasts, and like the war is this very small thing in the middle of it, but it just had such an impact on him. Anyway, but no, I have like a love-hate thing with Oliver Stone because he's like I say, he's done really good stuff, but then he's done things that I just absolutely can't stand. And a part of it is just that he has this kind of like provocateurism about him, is that he loves shock value and things like that. And it's not necessarily about the history to him. It's more about like a crazy narrative that he wants to push. And so I can kind of see with this movie, obviously he was in Vietnam, but this is like, a conglomeration, like you say, of all of the insane shit that is Vietnam. Take all that and put it all into my script. He was also a fucking cokehead for most of his career. So a lot of his movies, they feel that way. They're just like so intense all the time. And you're like The Doors is the worst piece of shit I've ever seen. And so inaccurate. It's the most inaccurate fucking thing you'll ever see in your life in terms of based on a true story, based on a real person.
I'm just glad that cocaine influenced one of the best lines in cinema history from Heat.
Hey, dude, I'm not saying
great ass!
I'm not saying that, you can't be influenced by drugs to make amazing things. Otherwise, I would denounce all my favorite musicians. But
very true, Mr. Pink Floyd.
Right, yeah.
Even though they deny it. Even though they deny it.
Yeah. But and everyone fucking else. But
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
That's right. But anyway, so yeah, it's like there's a lot of great things. And this movie, I don't love it or hate it. It's kind of in between. Like, I think it's very good, but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff in it. Like, for example, like Elias's part with the and all that. It just seems like it's so like intense and over the top. That stuff like that I don't really care for. But
What you mean, like you mean like falling down on the knees?
no,
and
but it's
doing
like
the
just
thing?
that he's been like shot in the chest 3 times, and he has like people
Well,
like chasing him and everything.
I mean, again, to call back to Tropic Thunder, I think it does a wonderful job of portraying it
Okay.
in a ridiculous manner because it is so much towards that. But I do say, just to talk about back to Platoon, I guess, is that scene, although it might be ridiculous and unprobable, is that the word I'm looking for? It does give the point across.
That's the thing. It's like Oliver Stone, like it's not necessarily about, and in most cases, it's not necessarily about whatever the facts and like trying to get it right. It's about his narrative, and his and stuff like that. And sometimes, in my opinion, that works, and sometimes it doesn't. So
Yeah, no, I agree. It's funny. Brian, go ahead. Do you want something?
I was gonna go into another subject, but no.
Oh, I was gonna jump into another subject real quick.
Oh, I was gonna say I love the language in this movie. I really
the dialogue is great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cheese dick. It's like there's so many good terms.
Actually, I was gonna talk about that, like, and doing a comparison to other movies that we've talked about.
We were
where
soldiers.
For example, one of the main factors that made Hurt Locker so bad was the dialogue. And I think that this movie does a really good job of the banter back and forth. If I would so bravely say that, I guess is probably the best. It's one of the best dialogue interchanges of men to men and within a squad I think I've heard in a long time. I really liked the dialogue and the talking. Nothing seemed ridiculous. Nothing was like over the top. Nothing seemed like it was beyond the scope of the era. It felt or trying to push a message or a meaning. It felt very much very solid dialogue between all these characters and within the time period, and seemed real enough to be like, those are conversations I've had with my friends. Or other people within, even if to put it to a point reenacting even, that kind of feel. Brian, go ahead.
And not even that though, like how each character is so ingrained in their vocabulary. Like the lieutenant, for example, like oh my God, he's just so good playing that role. I know he's been in a lot of other stuff like Mad Men and things, some horrible actors' names, but like he looks like a naive fucking 6-week wonder in Vietnam. Like when he goes and sees his men, like that's such a good scene.
In the Iowa wrestling T-shirt.
Yeah,
It's
like so good. But like, it's not only is dialogue good and they deliver it well, they know who they are, and like I just love that. I'll send it home, It's like that's what a college kid in a situation like this would say, It's just all around. It was really well done, and I really feel like the few weeks of training they had before that really ingrained them, And I'll admit, this is the only time I think Dale Dye ever added to a role or a movie. He's good in this.
This was his first movie ever, not just acting, but for advising. This was his first like gig.
If only it stopped now, like after this, that would be great, and he would, we'd all respect him because I really do like so much that he does. I know he was a Vietnam vet himself, and so he brings a lot of that into it. But like when he's walking around trying to talk to the kid, because I always did a lot of radio comms and shit when I did reenacting for Vietnam and things, and just he's talking to the guy, trying to talk him down and stuff, walking around. There's just so much things that he does that just comes off as real because he was real like that. It's like not even acting; it's just him just doing his job. But this is the only instance I think. Yeah, this is the only instance I think where he like actually adds to it. This is not Band of Brothers, fucking 1960s. Like we're gonna go attack the Germans at Carentan. Like no, it's really he does a great job throughout the whole film. So, and I didn't realize how early he is in the film too, because I'm used to the TV cuts, So when I watched it like in its full length, I'm like, oh shit, like you see him in the first 5 minutes, talking to fucking the other lieutenant and telling me he's slowing him down because Taylor's fucking tired with too much shit slowing. Like I didn't realize how linked it was, just watching it casually. So, but
one thing I think that, and then I'll jump into the thing I wanted to ask all of you is that I thought it was really interesting also to show a heat casualty so freaking fast within the first like 5 minutes. Like that was cool because it shows that it's the jungle and it's ants and it's everything I would fucking hate.
You're carrying 150 pounds or 120 pounds
Yeah.
of shit. Yeah.
And you know, William Dafoe's character's like, you don't need this. You
But
don't
it's only
need
the red
this."
ants. It's not the black ants. That's
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
bad
The
about
black
it.
ants
Yeah.
hurt more. Yeah, like don't be such a baby. Yeah. So like
True,
it's
by the
just,
way.
but like you know the whole doc conversations of you don't want you to drink any more water because that is true. You know, like things of that things and the heat exhaustion and the weight, and they talk about all the things that would take a guy like that down. Because I've unfortunately have been that very young in my reenacting career, thinking that I could do everything. And then I get to the top of the hill and I'm not planning, and it's like, oh, I'm like gonna collapse if I don't like not do this, you know, like scaling up mountains in PA, like full rock formations, going, oh, I'm not used to this. My fat, pasty body's been playing Halo for like, you know, this whole year, and this is my second event. Oh, okay, I'm gonna get my ass kicked. So,
The frontier, you know, of Vietnam and Cambodia is a lot different from Fort Polk training grounds. You know, so these guys that, you know, trained in the States and then went overseas, like they're two totally different things.
I will. I do want to open the conversation. I want to start with Mike B first, but I'll start with the conversation for. I'll start ask the question to everyone. I'll have Mike B lead off. Is that there's a lot of major people in this film, tons of major up and coming roles. May not be at of the time, but lots of people who are in big powerhouses now, and like a lot of things that I noticed, like just I think we had talked about that with. Glory, I think it was, of how many people were in there. And I think it's the same thing with here. It's like you see so many people who are now powerhouses start their role within this movie, or at least get that cliche or that typecast of being in other similar movies later down the line. Like, for example, the guy from Scrubs and the black guy with like the goatee almost.
John C. McGinley.
Well, that's the guy from Scrubs, but then there's
Right.
also
Forrest
the guy.
Whitaker.
Forrest
Forrest
there's a
Whitaker,
ton.
but there's
Yeah.
that guy. I don't know his name. I should have looked it up. He's got the cross on his forehead. He wears it on the necklace with the cross on his forehead. He gets hit the same time Johnny Depp does. It's that guy. They're both in The Rock, as in the Marines.
Oh, we talk about the black dude who gets impaled in the rock, like
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. He gets him. Yeah, but it's him in Platoon. That's the
Right,
guy
I
with the
recognized
goat.
him,
Yeah. Like so, there's a lot of like typecasts where you see them in similar roles later on, like Forrest Whitaker before he had the lazy eye, which I don't, you know, it's just like okay.
it was getting there. I could see.
Yeah, it's starting to develop. Yeah, but like you know, there's some really good actors. Johnny Depp, you know, in this as well. Charlie Sheen I have a kind of a chip on my shoulder for Charlie Sheen. I don't really like Charlie Sheen, but I mean it's interesting. But I was really surprised by, Mike A. You said his name. What's his name?
Oh, John C. McGinley. He's awesome.
I was really impressed by him and Johnny Depp.
Fucking faggots all left me.
John C. McGinley is a very underrated actor. He is so
Yeah,
good in
I
everything
agree.
he does.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mike B.
range.
Mike
is
B. I do
great.
want to hand it off to you. Who did you think did really well throughout this whole thing?
Um,
That's kind of been known later on, I guess.
As far as the acting, I think I'm just trying to think if I can think of a person who didn't pull their weight. I think the acting was really good because I think also, like we were talking about that whole boot camp thing that Dale Dye put on, because like if you actually look at the making of this, like they were out there for two weeks in the Philippines. That's fucked up. I mean there's a lot of shit that can go wrong and does go wrong. You're also tired, and it's like, you know, that's where Dale Dye got like the Saving Private Ryan thing of like, oh, we're going to boot camp and do all that shit.
Same thing
Well,
with
like-
Band of Brothers, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, Stone is a crazy fuck in a good way because like he was in Vietnam. Like he was, so this was his basic like story of his first few weeks in Vietnam. Okay. He was in a line infantry unit. Okay. He got wounded, and then he was put in the cab. We discussed this weeks ago, but like, so he was actually he had walked the walk and talked the talk. He's got a combat infantry badge. He fucking had I'm pretty sure he's got 1 or 2 Purple Hearts. The guy was wounded, and so this is kind of like his way of saying, okay, this is what my experience was in Vietnam the first few weeks I was there, and. So, yeah, you put a guy like Dale Dye, who was also in Vietnam, and it's very fresh. 86 is not that... You got to remember, the Vietnam War ended in 75 for the U.S. Like we were completely gone in 75. So 86 is not that far off. And it's like, okay, you got guys that were there training these actors who are young and nobody's heard of them. Nobody's heard of Johnny Depp at that point. Okay? Nobody. And
Well, he would have been. Sorry, I'll have to look up. I don't remember what he's been at that point.
he was pretty young, very young.
Yeah.
He was a nobody at this time.
Yeah, he was a nobody. And nobody's heard of him or a bunch of the, the guy we were just talking about. I'm bad with names too. I'm horrible with names.
John C. McGinley.
Yeah.
McGinley, yeah. Very few people have heard of him. Okay. All right. They get this gig. Oh, you have to go to the Philippines and you're going to be living out in the fucking jungle for 2 weeks before we start fucking shooting. Okay. Yep. I'll do it. I'll do it. We know how that goes. Like young actors that are fucking passionate, they go, yeah, I'll do anything you fucking want. I just want to do well. And so in this film, I think that it got across very well that these people had been through there and they were so fucking tired and they actually portrayed guys who were beaten down physically, mentally, and whatever. And they, you know, they knew the subject they were doing. They were doing a film about the Vietnam War. Okay, we get that. And then when they actually were so beaten down, they were able to like deliver these lines and like deliver these performances that were believable, very believable. And I can't think of really anybody that gave a weak performance in this one. I'm trying, like as I'm talking, I'm trying to think, and it's because the thing is like these are all guys that I know. Like it was years later, okay, decades later. But these are all guys that I know. And like when you're out there doing this shit, you're all tired and everything. The different personalities come through. You got the fucking psychotic fucking platoon sergeant. You've got the psychotic yet okay team leader or squad leader and all that shit. And you got these guys that are like, yeah, oh, well, I'm about to leave here soon, which did not happen in Iraq. So that's a different thing. But like, no, the dynamics, like, these guys that had been there a long time, you could tell because they had the gear. And it was like, oh, they had animosity towards the newer guys. Not because they hated them, because they were like, dude, I was just there. I don't want you to fuck over my chances of going home. Because I don't think you're going to fucking make it because I've seen so many guys die. And that's what it is. And again, it's less than 1% of the military in Vietnam saw combat. And this is portraying that very small percentage. And it's like these guys are fucked up. They're fucking emotionally devoid, which is a survival mechanism. It's nothing on them. And I think because they had them so tired and whatever, they were able to portray that better on camera than if you just get actors who are probably talented, but like they're well rested and everything. It's like, no. They're tired. They're pissed off. It's like, no, you're not going to send this guy out with me. And then, fucking again, the Irish guy. What's his name again?
John C. McGinley.
Yep, McGinley.
Yeah.
So he's like this guy. He does his job. He's a good squad leader or team leader. And then all of a sudden, when it comes time for him to cash in on his dick sucking, it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that dynamic. And he's like, I got a bad feeling about this one. It's like, yeah, well, fucking we need you.
Got a bad feeling about this, Bab.
Hey, Bob, I got a bad feeling.
Bab.
Got a
Bab.
bad, yeah.
Bab.
But it's like it didn't work. You know what I mean? Like it's in any other war movie, it was like, okay, yeah, you can go and take the fucking chopper out and fucking take his leave, you know. But no, Barnes is like, again, Oliver Stone said Barnes and Elias were two characters that he met in real life when he was in Vietnam. It didn't work out that way, like it didn't like in the film. But Elias was a Native American guy, and he was just fucking, bam, quick on his feet, fucking whenever, did his thing. Barnes was a guy that had been there before, and was a fucking asshole like that. Wasn't quite as brutal, but like, so he kind of, again, the caricature of like bringing everything in the Vietnam War that you possibly can into this thing that applies. But those two people were based on real people. And did Barnes shoot Elias? Maybe that happened a couple times, perhaps. But in Stone's case, it's probably just for the camera. But those two characters are not unrealistic at all. And the way Willem Dafoe and Tom Berenger played those guys, I've met those guys in real life. I've met those characters. Like they played it very well, and you can tell they're worn down. They're just fucking okay. One has a different approach than the other, right? Of like how to deal with a problem and whatever. It just happens. So I think that, okay, very long-winded rant. I'm sorry about that. But like, I don't know anybody that had a weak performance.
Okay. So liked everyone.
Yeah, and I'm still trying to think about it. And it's like, even small roles like Gardner, right?
Brian's got his hand up. Hold on.
Yeah,
I know someone that did a really bad job in this movie, and it rents. If they did a better job, the movie would be a lot shorter. The Viet Cong sucked in the NVA. I mean, they did not perform at all. You know,
You're talking about
they waited till the end. It's a joke. They waited till the end to attack the Americans in force. You know, it's like, really? They had all these opportunities for the whole time of the movie, but no, nobody doesn't deliver in this film. You know,
Not even.
Everyone
not
puts their
even-
best foot forward.
But I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about like when you say it as a joke, I'm like, actually, yeah, the NBA guys like they did a good job too because they were aggressive as shit, and they weren't retarded. They didn't just do the whole wave tactics of like
danger close wave tactics.
No, it's like
I love
yeah
the
sorry.
preparations and stuff. Like, you know, in the end, like when they put all this stuff up, they do wear helmets, which the NVA did and the VC did wear helmets. There are a lot.
Well,
of
they were in
that
pith
was
helmets.
mostly.
They were in pith helmets.
But I think toward the end, we'll see. I think some of them have actually like metal military helmets on.
I did
They
not.
did-
I've never seen that.
We'll go through the IMDb. I
Yeah,
could be
yeah,
wrong,
yeah,
but
yeah.
the NVA and the VC did use military steel helmets.
Yep.
They had a lot of East German helmets, some Czech helmets, I think,
Yep.
and M40s
There
for
are Polish
anti-aircraft
helmets
crews.
too. Yep.
Oh, interesting. They use them for anti-aircraft crews, and I have this great photo somewhere. It destroyed the internet like 2 years ago of a guy of 101st A Shaw Valley vet, like at Hamburger Hill, and he's looking up this trail. He's got a huge like multicolored scarf on. And he's got an East German like fucking DDR helmet on.
Yeah.
And he's in the middle of the.
Dude,
A
I made an
Shaw.
entire video
It's
about
like-
this on my YouTube, but like, yeah.
Oh,
So
funny.
yeah, I know that the steel helmets. Yes, and they actually did wear them occasionally in combat, but the majority that you're going to see in this film, like, if they wore it, I didn't catch it, but like the majority is going to be the pith helmet. So Nate,
Yep. And then just one last thing, Nate.
Yep.
And on the subject of this, so at the end of the film, when the whatever it is, the mobile infantry guys show up, you know, they're still 25th, so I'm not sure what regiment, but
Yeah,
they have
yeah,
the
yeah.
German flag and everything.
yeah.
That's legit.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
totally legit.
Yep.
And there's a really cool photo that exists that it's really cool happening on a forum. This is one really cool thing. If you guys like interested in Vietnam War and stuff, you should join some of these Vietnam War veteran forums because they're the only generation of like veterans that are online in mass. They don't know how to use the internet, but like literally you can find. I know, like it's.
Let's
if
just
you're a
state the
researcher-
facts here.
Yeah,
yeah.
Boomers don't know how to use the internet, but like seriously though, if you want to find out any information, your time is, you know, you're running out of time basically. You have like 10 years to talk to these guys because Agent Orange, all these other things. But there are groups on Facebook of tens of thousands of Vietnam War vets, and they like bicker and fight and talk about their things. But so there's this one photo of this guy who's on top of a 113 and a 50 cal, and he's wearing a German helmet, and it's like dated 68. And
Yep.
it's pretty famous.
Yep.
It's been all everywhere. That ended up on one of these forums. Well, the fucking guy that the photo was of commented on it. And long story short, his father brought back this German M40 helmet from wherever, World War II, whatever, and he brought it to Vietnam and he wore it to look cool, you know, on his M113. And he was like, that helmet is at mile marker 26 on the Quang Bai Hu Highway because on January 26, 1969, we got hit fucking hard and, you know, our fucking 113 got destroyed and I lost the helmet. It got rounds through and everything. So, like, he literally wore a German helmet in combat in Vietnam and has the photos to prove it and the story to prove it. And it's just crazy.
Yeah.
The only reason that happened was because the internet grouping and this photo ended up in this forum that this guy was in. So it's just insane.
Well, it's also
you know?
it's such an exception, and this thing is like exceptions happen, but like that's like most people will just be like, oh, it didn't happen. It was like, there's fucking definitely like I've got shit when I was in Iraq that people would not believe. Like my buddy wore an M7 bayonet with an M8A1 scabbard, He literally had it in Iraq, right?
Funny.
In 2009. But like whatever, and so it's like, yeah, there's some things to that, and I don't know. It's just it's a fun debate to have.
Before I give back to Nate, so another cool thing again, this how both sides you have this craziness. The director of my museum, who I'll have on here eventually, he met a ton of Vietnam vets from our museum and stuff, and there was one guy who carried an MP40 in Vietnam, and he was very early, like 66, 67, but it was a very fascinating story. He literally got off the plane to get into Vietnam, and there's these guys waiting to go home. There's this guy with an MP40, and he was like a nerd, comic book nerd. He like read Captain America and stuff. He's like, oh my god, that's an MP40. He's like, yeah, you want it? He's like, I can't bring it with me. So he's like, okay. So he just gives this guy an MP40, like as this dude goes home, and he carries it for his whole fucking tour. Not always in the field and stuff, but he has it with him. And a year later, he doesn't know what the fuck to do with it. He's going home, and the same thing happens. Like, this kid's like, is that an MP40? He's like, you want it? And, like, literally, just
keep
fucking,
passing it off.
Yeah, and it's just crazy shit like that. So that's why the war is just insane. Like, I actually knew a guy, too, speaking of modern conflicts. He was an officer, EOD and stuff, but he was in Afghanistan. He carried his CZ-58 paratrooper model. That was his fucking weapon, like, the whole time. So seeing you dudes in AR-1 and shit with like fucking Czech weapons from the 60s and 70s is pretty funny.
Which model is that? That's the
VZ-58.
Is that the little compact mini pistol thing?
No,
that's not a Scorpion.
It's a rifle. It's the one that looks like an AK, but it's not.
Oh, that's that one
With a
that's like
folding
it's
stock.
got like a
Different.
folding. It's got a folding bayonet on it too.
Yeah.
That goes like almost like an SKS.
No.
Which one am I thinking of then?
You're thinking
Look
of
it
the
up.
Type 56 with the folding.
Don't tell me what to do, Brian. All right.
But anyway,
Actually, a lot of those guns ended up in Vietnam, though, as aid, and a lot of them were captured by Americans. I have some really cool photos of dead Viet
dude,
Cong.
I've done these videos
barbed wire
before. I got to redo these videos now that we're talking about it, because like I did these videos years ago of like weapons that were used by Vietnamese forces and also American forces. I met a guy at a gun show, and he said, yeah, when we were on base, like we had to draw our weapons out if we were going to use them. So people bought guns to defend ourselves or defend themselves if the base is being overrun. And he's like, yeah, I bought a fucking, I think he bought an M3 from a guy that was like, it was captured, but it was like not on the books basically. And he bought an M3 just for his personal defense if they got overrun, which they did a couple times. And he was a Marine, and he's like, yeah, like they wouldn't give us our weapons unless we were like doing that shit. And like you go to the fucking arms room and everybody's panicking. So it's like, no, we wanted to have Thompsons and whatever the fuck we could get to defend ourselves if we were getting overrun, And so that's another factor of like, yeah, guys carrying MP40s. Yeah, they had them sitting by their bed because fuck. So
I know of two guys that carried greasers. One was a LERP guy who had a vest made of grease gun magazines, and he had some crazy stories. Oh my god! The other guy was a engineer in a Marine Corps unit, and he was there early on, and they were targeted by the Viet Cong and I Corps because at one point they were the only wrecker that was still around. So they were like trying to destroy the wrecker because it was the only thing in the I Corps that could pull tanks out of rice paddies. So they had a very high price on their head. And his last thing that's funny for Vietnam and weapons and stuff, there's a very good memoir. If you guys want to read it, he goes into Cambodia, Parrot Speak. It's called 5-4 Whiskey. Really cool. He's a gunner on an M113. But at one point, he buys a Thompson from an Arvin guy, and he can't get magazines for some reason. So he writes his dad. He's like, hey, I need some magazines. And his dad buys them in some catalog magazine and sends them over to Vietnam. And he gets like 15, 30-round mags. He's like, thanks, Dad. So it's just funny, like, you have that, that's like the same way that they got the, what is it called? Bayo Gamma. Like the really early camouflage for the advisors and stuff. It was like literally bought out of magazines and shit. But yeah, weapons in country are insane. You see everything. Sometimes you even see MP43s, but they're not MP43s.
Yeah, because I know that long ass fucking BFA on them.
Fuck you.
That's never going away.
I'm not getting into it. Brian said he wished he had a control button. I'm following.
Didn't
Brian's
you say
rule.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike.
What?
Megan, I brought you in as well. I brought you out.
Didn't you say you messaged the actual guy that worked on that movie, the armorer?
Yes.
And he's like, "What the fuck are you
I'm
talking about?"
still waiting. I'm still waiting for proof. He's probably like, hey, yeah, I'll get right to it. Block.
Yep.
Fucking nerd.
Fucking crazy.
Goddamn Americans.
That's funny.
So Nate, what were you gonna ask earlier? With fucking.
It's gone.
Okay. Cool.
It's gone. Fuck it. Fuck this whole thing.
Yeah.
One thing that I do want to talk about that's interesting is the last battle. You know, this whole movie kind of comes to this insane crescendo where they, almost get overrun. And a lot of people over the years have asked, is that a real battle? Is that real?
Yes.
Because there weren't many instances in Vietnam where things like that happened. Very, very rarely. Well, this is a real...
Disagree, but continue.
As a whole. So this is a real battle. It's called the Battle of Scuttlebutt, and it took place on January 1st, 1968. And it's a very interesting story. It actually was during a ceasefire. So everybody knows about Tet, which is at the end of January, which is the Vietnamese New Year. Well, the actual Western New Year, whatever you want to call it, January 1st, the Pope actually asked South Vietnam and the Americans to have a 36-hour ceasefire for the New Year's. So they agreed to it, and the Vietnamese tentatively agreed to it. So there was this, it was 2 battalions of the 25th were out in the field, and they dug in on the 30th of December, and they just made this perimeter, and they were going to wait out the ceasefire and then continue on their operations. Well, 6 hours before the ceasefire ended, 4 battalions of Main Force NVA tried to wipe them off the face of the fucking earth. And honestly, talking to anyone that was there, and you see veterans interviews and stuff, they say the way that the battle's depicted in the movie is chillingly realistic to how it really was. And that it actually is very, very realistic. In the end, they took out 700 Gooks. And these 2 battalions were able to hold out because they were able to coil around themselves and they had artillery support from a few miles away. But there was literally, touch and go for a good period of time. And the reason you really don't hear a lot about it is because this happened right before Tet. This is January 1st of 68. 4 weeks later, the world is flooded with the actual general, the general uprising. But this was just one division's plan to wipe out an American unit that was in the field, and it didn't work out. But yeah, there were other instances like Doc Toe. There was a whole company that was wiped off the face of the earth, A Company of the 173rd. Khe Sanh, that almost was a thing. What the hell was there was the 82nd base that was Ripcord. That was the one, the FOB that was abandoned. I think there was one more. There was a Special Forces base. There was a big battle. That was the one with the tanks. I had a friend of a friend that was there. But so you don't really have big field battles like this happen a lot. Where American units are literally out there and going to get destroyed. So that's where a lot of that guys that were in country are like, that never happened to me. It's like, well, yeah, because that didn't. Right. But this actually was real and it happened. And just to end it, any guy or anybody that knows the podcast, if you listen to our episode about Sergeant York, we had James Gregory on. He actually is working on a memoir from a guy who was in the 25th, and he was a supply sergeant of all things. And he ended up out there at Scuttlebutt delivering Christmas presents or whatever. And he was there for the battle. And he was like a 37-year-old quartermaster. And anyway, James is he's transposing his diary into a book right now. And he's going to talk about everything and stuff. So I don't know when that's going to come out. I don't know what it's called, but it's pretty cool that it's literally about this battle. There's not too much information about it. There's not a lot of memoirs and things. There's more interviews and stuff. But this really did happen at January 1st, 1968.
Yep.
And
yeah,
which is crazy.
It's interesting because going back, we're going to circle back. That's what I said. A little bit is most of the Vietnam vets that were actually combat arms that were in combat, they said their firefights were very short and very confusing. And that's why, the whole question, did you kill anybody? Most of these guys are like, I don't know. That's the same nowadays. There's always the exception of Scuttlebutt, where it's fucking, you killed somebody because it's a massive battle. And it's insane on both sides, whatever. But most of the Vietnam vets I've talked to, and they were there from, the guys I've talked to have been 66 through 72, right? Marines, Army, right? They were infantry guys, or they were medics or combat engineers. They were combat arms, we'll just say. And they said, our engagements were very short. And most of them said the longest engagement they were in was 20 minutes. And
I think the average firefight was 20 seconds in country.
Right, and they just didn't know. And also, it's the same nowadays. Is like a firefight is not like it's portrayed in the movies. They're gonna look for the exception, like in Platoon, right, where it's just this constant, just this fucking battle royale, and it's like whatever. But like, you know, combat for most of the guys that I've talked to, and you know, from every war, World War II on to nowadays. They're like, yeah, it was pretty short. It didn't last long, you know? We didn't know what the hell was going on. We exchanged some fire. Some guys got hit. We hit some of their guys, I think. And then it was done. It was silent. And then we had to deal with that. And that's how it was a lot for the guys in Vietnam. And it's interesting to see, like, the Vietnamese perspective of the Vietnam War, or the Second Indochina War, you know, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But the American Vietnam War. Is like the Vietnamese guys, the NVA and the VC were just as terrified. It wasn't, they try to make it out like the propaganda of like the fanatic fucking guys that are just gonna, we're just gonna go and fucking overrun your position. We don't give a shit if we die. No, the Vietnamese guys were terrified too. And when they started getting hit, they were like the same reaction as the Americans. They're like, fuck. How do we get out of this? Like, it's not going to happen. Like, we can't win this. And they were not like these savages, these fucking people that were just, oh, no mercy, no fucking emotion. No, these guys, they lost their friends too. And so it's like, yeah, in Platoon, yeah, Scuttlebutt is a nasty fucking battle that happened. But like we were all saying, and then I'll stop my rant, is like, that's basically the entire Vietnam War enveloped into one film for the intensity.
I have one question in terms of the I was reading on Oliver Stone and all that stuff, and this is the battle, and this is like his experiences that he's obviously taking from. He wasn't at what'd you call it? It was Scuttlebutt. He wasn't there, right?
I think he was, or he heard about it. He's a very interesting experience because he wasn't in the field the whole time. I think he did some quartermaster stuff later on because he got injured or something.
Because I was just reading that he was in a giant battle, but he was with the.
Well, he was in 25th ID.
He was.
Do you know what their logo is, Nathan? The 25th ID.
No.
Tropic Thunder.
Oh really? Oh, is that what that is? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's funny.
Yeah, Mike B said the electric strawberry.
Oh.
and just to build off.
I've never heard it called that, but yeah, that's funny.
My squad leader was prior 25th, and he called it the electric strawberry. So, yeah, like
that's awesome.
And just to build off what Mike B said with experiences and stuff. I know Michael will remember this book, or at least some of the experiences. Blood Trails. This is a great Vietnam War memoir where he's there for 4 months. Nothing happens. He stares at vegetation. Then he gets into his incredible firefight. He's an M60 assistant gunner. And as he's coming down, he gets shot in the jaw. And he can't talk. His fucking face swells up.
The galloping.
And as he describes it in the book, as he's falling back to the LZ, his jaw was chattering against the lower part of his jaw was chattering against the top part of his jaw like a galloping horse. That's his experience. It's literally 4 months of hiking in the fucking woods and getting shot in the face and going home. That was his Vietnam. He didn't shoot anyone. He didn't know what fucking happened. He got shot. And that was it. So that's what's interesting about this. It's like when you read enough Vietnam memoirs, they all follow this pattern usually of the firefight, the R&R, and then the months of hating yourself and why you're here and questioning and 365 and a wake up, baby. So it's interesting because I was just pulling it up and I was looking at it, and it did say he was with the 25th, and then it said he was then he said after recovering from his wounds he was transferred to the 1st Cavalry Division.
Cavalry.
Every time, dude. Cavalry.
Cavalry.
Yeah,
cavalry.
Yes, Calvary. Anyway,
it's not just you, Nate. It's not just you. I'll just play it that way. But
okay, it was assigned to long range
cavalry
platoon.
Yes,
and then he was then he was in this giant battle. So that's why I was curious. If he
Yeah,
was in
so he must have
that battle.
taken something, from that.
What's interesting is that he wrote this movie right when he got out of Vietnam. And he won a Jim.
What was it called?
It was called Break. Was what it was. It was actually called. And
It said it took him 10 years. He was writing it for 10 years.
the development. But he initially wrote the script for Break, which would eventually become Platoon. But when he wrote Break, he wanted Jim Morrison to play the lead character in it, and he sent it to him. And when Jim Morrison died in Paris, they found the script in his apartment. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if he ever read it, but he did receive it.
Also,
That's why he drank himself to death.
Yeah.
also, anytime I see Tom Berenger, I'm just like, I just want to say, "What's up, essay?" And he starts throwing erasers at people. It's just like that's all I see that guy in. Is like
He was in a bunch of Luke Schultz's movies.
Yep. That's what happens when you get 60, when you're like 60, 70 years old. But
That's what happens when you don't convert the bag as an actor.
yeah. But you still have to be in these war movies. Let's get the guy from Platoon. But,
Yeah,
And
right?
Sniper. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah. Oh right, yeah. I've never seen that all the way.
Yeah, don't. It's bad.
So we
Have
should
you
do
seen
it.
Sniper Special Ops?
Yeah.
Oh, with Steven Seagal, yeah.
Ugh.
But so no, and like it. And then after Jim Morrison died and all that stuff, and he couldn't get him to play the lead role in the film. He became a successful in other scripts. He wrote Midnight Express. He wrote Scarface, and then he eventually, once his film career started to kind of take off, he was finally able to make Platoon. But this was like the getting out of Vietnam was kind of like I need to make a movie about this. That was like the thing that kind of launched his career as a filmmaker, was making a movie about Vietnam.
What's interesting too is that reading a bit about it as well is that he got a lot of pushback because Deer Hunter and Apocalypse Now were the two Vietnam films that came out in the 70s, and the studios were like, "Oh, that's it.
That's it. That's all we have to say.
We got everything."
Yeah.
Yeah. And while I love Vietnamese, fucking Russian roulette with, in Saigon, I'm really glad that more films were made later on. But it's interesting. And looking into it, too, his first short he's credited with is a short about him coming home and dealing with his Vietnam stuff and talking to his parents and things. And I actually really want to see that because it's shot in 71.
I've never seen that.
Which is pretty crazy. So, yeah, I got to look at what it's called again.
Well,
but,
it's funny you say that because then Platoon releases your statement of they don't want any more Vietnam films, and then it's just bombardment of Vietnam films right after that because the successful Platoon goes. Hamburger Hill came out a year later.
Yep, and then Casualties of War,
Yeah.
and then
I totally forgot about Hamburger Hill. That's one of those films you forget about for some reason.
That was also highly requested in the comments on this poll that I put on
we're going back to the A Shaw for sure.
never seen it.
Oh, yeah.
I really like Hamburger Hill.
Never
I
seen it.
It's
actually-
really
I think,
intense. It's like
I actually think I prefer it.
68 Camaro.
Yeah,
really well
I think
done.
I actually prefer it than this film. I like this film, but I think I liked Hamburger Hill more.
I'm more intrigued now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really, really well done, and just the attrition in it and everything, and just you really get this feeling of like why, it really is. While we're on the subject of the Vietnam War films, it really is a tragedy how bad Apocalypse Now, or not Apocalypse Now, Full Metal Jacket is.
Yeah.
I really feel like that was a wasted opportunity.
It is a
That
wasted
was-
You
opportunity.
can't film a
yeah.
Vietnam movie in England.
I
mean,
think some parts of Full Metal Jacket are really good,
Yes.
and then there's other parts of it that I'm just like, ugh.
Well, Full Metal Jacket for me, it's a failure in that I don't think it's meant to like promote like the military or anything like that. I don't think that was Kubrick's intent. However, when anyone talks about that movie, all they do are just quote Arlie Ermey funny lines.
Well,
I
I think what it is like that movie suffers from the cult following that it has with
yes,
it.
that's what I'm talking about.
And the
yes.
cult following has warped it into a different mentality and
than what it
meaning,
was
I think.
intended to be. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that's what it suffers
Which-
from. Whereas you have other films of the same kind of era and the same subject matter that aren't as twisted and or manipulated to be what they aren't by a cult following
Right.
because they either don't have it or they are just under the line. Brian.
There's not one Vietnam War reenactor that won't know MIC KYMOUSE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you call it? And before I leave it, I'm a big Kubrick fan, and I think his best work, just while we're here, is Clockwork Orange.
Oh, fuck,
Such an
yes.
amazing fucking movie.
Fuck.
I'm actually interested to ask you that question, Michael. So I've never asked you if you like Kubrick at all, but it's all you do.
No, I was into Kubrick when I was in high school, and I kind of put it down, and I haven't picked him up since then. But I haven't seen Clockwork Orange since like, Jesus Christ, I don't know, 2010 or something like that.
I
so,
have never seen it.
you won't
it's
forget
really
it. You won't forget it.
The Ultra.
Dude, I watched that shit like for the first time because everybody was like, when we were in Kuwait, like in 2009, they were like, you ever see Clockwork Orange? Nope. All right, here. And then we were sharing files totally legally, on hard drives. But like,
You were in Iraq. It's okay.
no, I was in Kuwait.
Oh,
So
Kuwait,
I don't
sorry,
know the laws there.
It's even more okay in
Yeah,
Kuwait.
it's even more okay in Kuwait. But so I watched it on my own volition, right? And I just sat there and I was in my cot and I was watching this thing and I'm like, holy fuck.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
a trip.
a mind fuck. Like it's a mind fuck to the nth degree. And it's
I saw it
yeah.
when I was like 13 because people didn't tell me I shouldn't watch
That's
it. and
why
I
you
had an
watch it.
account, and I was like, literally,
Yeah.
yeah, fuck it. It was so like I saw Come and See and like Clockwork Orange around the same time.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
probably explains a lot.
But we were talking. We were talking about Full Metal Jacket, and
Mike watching the Hurt Locker.
oh my god, dude.
You haven't seen the film, so shut your fucking cock.
I know the
is that
references.
is that Ludwig fan?
I know it's like Platoon. I've seen bits of it to know the references. for it,
Yes.
so yeah.
Get your adrenochrome.
But we were talking about Full Metal Jacket, and like that's the thing where I say that movie, I think it really fails because it's the cult following, like you say, that has made it popular. It's like, oh, Arlie Ermey is so funny. It's like, I don't think that was Kubrick's intent, but that's why I think that Tigerland, in terms of Vietnam films, is like kind of the antithesis of Full Metal Jacket, because it's like these drill sergeants, they're not funny, like what they say and stuff like that. They're not. And so
No, when you're actually there, like speaking from experience, like it's not. When you think about it afterwards, like the shit they say, it's funny. But like while it's being said and like yelled and
It's
screamed,
not funny.
dude, it's
Yeah.
because you're always stressed, and it's like, so like, the thing I would say really quickly, and then we'll get off this fucking topic because Full Metal Jacket's its own thing. and
yeah,
that's gonna probably be like a 4.5 hour podcast. By the way,
I can't wait.
So
I've been talking to some Marine buddies of mine who run hardcore immersion events for Vietnam, and they're actually Marine lieutenants who want to come on and destroy that movie. So we'll have a really good episode
Yes,
eventually.
but anyway,
so just let everybody know.
So Arlie Ermey, yes, I know the whole backstory about blah, 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 the whole thing. Like he was supposed to be the advisor. I get that. That was very fucking tame and like dumbed down to an audience that didn't have to ever go through that. And then they're like, oh, it's so fucking funny. Oh, it's so whatever. But it's like when you're in that environment, yes, Nate, I see your hand and I'm going to stop this immediately. When you're in that environment, A, they're not talking that slow and that clearly. B, it's not fucking funny. And C, I agree with you that's not Kubrick's intent. Because, like, it was to show how shitty it was for these guys. All right, penis. Yeah, I understand. You get your fucking, you're counting
Fighting each other, sorry.
We're countering each other with numbers, how many fingers we
Count my
have.
fucking
I'm sorry.
words. All right, but anyway,
in
it's
second place.
that's one of the big problems. And like, I'll really quickly say in Platoon, I did not see any of that Hollywood bullshit. As far as like the way the NCOs were talking, I mean, there was some, you could debate me on that, but like as far as the NCOs talking to the fucking subordinates and whatever, I know you're not in basic training, you're not in boot camp, but like it wasn't out of the ordinary. So, all right, Nate.
Well, I was just gonna chime in. I think what Full Metal Jacket suffers from, and then we'll officially move on after Brian, is that Full Metal Jacket suffers from the fact that no other movie had that's not even a word. Had not shown boot camp in that way before. And I think
you're right.
And I think that
Well, nope.
well, hold on. Let me finish. I think mainstream wise, I'll counter your.
I know what movie you're thinking of. Yeah.
The boys
Yeah,
of Company
it
C.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who
Which
have
is really
who have,
relevant
who have,
here.
who have countered, who have hit mainstream media and showed that yes, this guy is ridiculous in his comments and remarks. It's ridiculous, and I don't think anyone had really heard that before in the mainstream movie media before, and I think that's why it takes off so much. And then I think that is what constantly feeds Full Metal Jacket, because that is something that no one has really ever seen. And so I think if you take that away, or if you take that, the fact that it was the first main one to hit that vein, I think Full Metal Jacket wouldn't be as prevalent as it is.
I agree.
If it wasn't the first one. So Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to bring up the Boys of Company C. It's funny how you talk about things and you remember other movies. And yeah, so that's an interesting one because it's like the antithesis in a way. It's the Tigerland of, in another way, of, Full Metal Jacket, because it's Marine Corps guys, doing what they should do. Like, they break you down, but then they build you up. You see a lot of like what, DIs do, actually, not destroy you and make, your fucking recruits kill you. So that's what's interesting. The Boys and Company C really is a basis, I think, in a lot of ways for what Kubrick wanted to do, but more macho and better shot. I don't like the Boys from Company C, but it is a very interesting.
Well, we're gonna have to do that someday, because I have a lot of bones to pick with that fucking film.
It's really interesting because that is before Apocalypse Now and Deer Hunter.
Yes, correct. That was actually, in my opinion, the first Vietnam War movie.
Pretty much, yeah.
That was made and that actually got some traction.
I gotta see Deer Hunter 2. I've never seen that either.
I've seen Deer Hunter 1. I've never seen Deer Hunter 2.
If you've seen Always Sunny, then you've seen part of it, because they always. Yeah,
Frank is
Again, I think it's like I know all the references.
You will.
All these movies, but it's just like finally.
So hey, Brian, on your list, let's do fucking Boys and Company C. Let's do fucking Full Metal Jacket. Just write them down. Otherwise, we're gonna forget. We always forget.
Yep, we have a master list, so
yeah. Well, that's what I'm telling you. Throw them on there. Boys and Company C.
We also got to do the Siege of Firebase Gloria, which is another Vietnam War movie with Arlie Ermey that's really bad but really good. It's got an amazing set, but everything else sucks about it. So it's I love the Vietnam War, so we'll get into it. Oh, we also have to do Good Morning Vietnam.
Well, dude, I actually love that fucking film.
It's good in a different way.
Yeah, it's not your typical war film, which I like. It's an emotional fucking roller coaster.
And there are some other good ones I stumbled upon recently too. One called like White Tiger, which is about ROK Marines in Vietnam, which I never knew existed.
Oof.
Which I really
not the Russian White Tiger one.
No.
No.
You sent me that. You sent me a trailer, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, it was really cool.
That looks like it's gonna be fucking brutal.
Yeah, late '80s, and it looks very interesting.
Jesus Christ, yeah, it's
There's so many. We could do Missing in Action if we ever wanted to one day.
Yeah, I mean someday.
I've never heard of that one either.
It's fucking endless.
That's not.
Yeah.
That's when Chuck Norris goes back to Vietnam to rescue his son.
Oh no, I don't want to fucking.
Wait a minute.
That.
Are you talking about? Are you talking about Uncommon Valor?
No, that's the other one.
Okay, that's the other one about that.
I know. The reason the Vietnam War ended in 75.
That's like the first Untouchables in a way.
The reason that the Vietnam War ended in 75 is because Chuck Norris left in 74 and then came back, and then it was over.
What?
It's over. It's fucking over.
What was the film that Sean was saying? If this is the film, I'm gonna kill you. We were talking about that the other night.
The British one.
Yeah. What was it?
It's
Bravo,
got two names.
Bravo
20 is the
Bravo
American one,
20.
and the other one's
Yeah.
Carifa or something.
Yeah, and he was talking
we'll
about
get to
that
it,
one.
bud.
He's just like, I'm going to kill you now. He's been wanting to do that one for a
Is it
while.
a credible threat or is it a toe-headed threat?
It's a credible threat.
No, Sean. If I ever die mysteriously, it's Sean.
Well, Sean's a towhead, so it's. I don't know if it's credible or when he says that.
No, it's real.
It's real.
I've known the man since second grade.
It's real.
That's not good.
It's real.
Yeah.
That's not
It's
good.
real.
Yeah, way it goes.
Oh, we
wait.
also have to do
While
Siege
we're
of
on the
Juddaville
subject.
really quick. We have to
Yes,
do
that
that
we do.
very soon.
Do you guys know what the first Vietnam War film ever made was? And one of you, it involves your idol, or not your idol, but some of you really
It's
like.
the Green Berets, right?
No, it's not.
It's before that. Right?
It's earlier than the Green Berets.
I'm not gonna guess. What is it?
Is that Sean Bean in it?
It's got Audie Murphy in it. It's from 1964.
Oh.
And it's called A Yank in Vietnam.
Oh, I've heard about that. Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's based off of a really bad book that was written during the war in Indochina, which was basically about like how America was doing these things over there they shouldn't be doing, and the CIA was getting involved, and funding things. It's not a very well-made movie, but it literally is the first.
Sounds
Vietnam
pretty
War.
fucking accurate, but like.
If you read Embers of War, it's really good. Like this book that's all about Indochina. It goes into the depth of how that was written in the film as well, and the difference of the comparisons. But that's the first Vietnam War film actually ever made. Technically, they did make Platoon or what?
Chug. Oh,
I think
Dude, I drink a lot of water. Fucking these guys know me. I drink a lot of fucking water. Like
I know. It's fine.
There's another Indochina film made from Peter Schaffer, who was at DMB and Phu, and he made the DMB and Phu movie from the 90s, and the Anderson Platoon, which is this crazy documentary about the first African-American lieutenant who graduated from West Point and goes to Vietnam, and about his platoon in Vietnam. But long story short, I think that's like Platoon 317 came out in the early 60s as well. So that technically might be competing with this one. But the first American-made film about Vietnam is with Eddie Murphy. So
since we're on break time, I want to go take a piss. As I'm, yes, chug. Yes, I have been drinking a lot of water, so I need to piss.
Okay, all right.
So we're on break time.
You
And
you take some in and got put some out. I get it.
hey,
oh my God,
where the fuck are you, Jungle Fatigues? You fucking clown.
I'm not.
oh my God,
I'm not in the
just found
jungle.
A great film. It's also made during the Vietnam War about American soldiers in Vietnam. It's called Nam's Angels. It's about a biker gang that's recruited and given Yamaha motorcycles and sent to Cambodia to go rescue an American diplomat. And it was filmed and distributed in 1970.
Good Lord, whose fucking film student movie is that? Let's see.
Dude, oh my God.
What's it called?
It's called Nam Angels.
Nam Angels.
Nam's Angels or The Losers.
So like Hell's
All right,
Angels, but Nam's Angels.
There's your cliche movie, dude.
Wow.
Dude, it's like Green Beret, but slow-mo.
I just looked up Nam's Angels. The alternate title for it is The Losers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dude, it's like fucking what's that what's the biker outlaw film from '69 with Peter Fonda?
Oh, Easy Rider.
Yeah, it's like Easy Rider, but they're in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Oh
Wow,
my
I've
God.
never heard of this.
This is amazing. I thought Green Berets was bad.
Directed by Jack Starrett. Starrett? What?
This was 3 years before the Hanoi Hilton was closed and the American POW exchange happened.
Yeah.
Fuck. Now I gotta go pee. I'll be right back.
Oh, see, now we all gotta piss. Jesus.
Oh God.
Piss break or what the fuck?
I'm gonna piss just to be safe.
Yep.
Just because I can.
Yeah, fuck it.
Dude, we got to do Nam's Angels.
No, we're not. I was sitting there like talking to you while I was pissing, and I'm like, oh wait, my mic on my headset's not active.
Dude, they have a PPSH. That's pretty rare. It's Madsen M50s, or fucking like zip tied to the front of Kawasaki motorcycles.
Jesus.
Oh my God. Oh, and it's all on YouTube. But yeah, then Boys Company C comes out in '78, the same year that Deer Hunter comes out. So, and The Odd Angry Shot comes out a year later. So interesting. It's another film we have to do. So, I think it's time to jump on IMFDB. What do you guys think?
All right,
dig
let's
it.
do IMFDB. Yep.
Can dig it. So,
I have no idea what this is. I didn't see it at all in this film.
Really
whatsoever.
quick, the uniforms and the equipment were pretty fucking good for '67, and like late.
there was some
late
'67 field gear and stuff. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well,
I'll touch on that in a minute.
yeah, we'll talk about the guns themselves, but like the gear itself, not bad for late '67. Not bad.
They have Arvin Rucks, I think. They really shouldn't have Arvin Rucks, but it's some units
Yeah,
did.
well, we'll get to that. Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
that is an Arvin Ruck. Yep. Yeah, so we'll get to that. But like as far as like their uniforms themselves, there was some continuity shit with Charlie Sheen. He was wearing third patterns in a lot of scenes, and then he's all of a sudden wearing second patterns, and then back to third patterns again, and then back to second patterns. Jungle Fatigue.
I noticed that in the last battle, like when he runs in, he goes, "It's fucking beautiful." Like the next time you see him, he doesn't have any field gear on. I'm like, what happened?
Right,
And
yeah.
you can assume
There was some
obviously,
continuity
but,
shit, and it's like I get why they're probably fucking tired as shit and worn down, but like that's some things. Okay,
That and also scenes could be cut. Things could be maybe they didn't get the scene where his gear gets blown off.
I noticed that
There's a lot of stuff like that always happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
there
Right.
was one scene where like they're cutting through the woods or the jungle and there's no noise or anything. in the beginning, and I'm like, oh, that's somebody not. They couldn't have muted a line of audio because it's the 80s. But I was like, oh, that's been left out or something.
Yeah,
you know?
because like when you
it's
here's
funny.
the thing is like even I don't give a fuck where you're at. When dude, when an infantry fucking unit is moving, I don't give a fuck how quiet each individual soldier's trying to be. You're making a fuckload of noise. I mean, a fuckload. And that movies usually don't get that right. So yeah, it's you're making a fuck like guys. Seriously, you could hear people walking from like 300 fucking yards away, and it's just whatever. But anyway, yeah. So okay, we got the MC. Okay, this FTB is gonna be really fun to pick apart. All right,
This is gonna be a big one.
So this is just because we need to get better at it. This is the M16, the very first.
yes.
Oh,
but that is a
okay.
very vague term. So all right, so I'm reading this. Has an A1 flash hider but lacks a forward assist. Oh, this could be a model 603. I have one of these. That might have had. Well, no, it's unlikely that it would have the A1 fucking birdcage flash hider. So it would have probably because like the Air Force and the Navy use a lot of 603s that don't have the fucking. Oh, that's a 601 receiver. Never mind. Yeah. So the A1, and we'll talk about the A1 a little bit, is because okay, late '67, yes, they were starting to introduce the A1. Okay, I don't know if the 25th was one of the units that got A1s right away, but most likely, in my opinion, not a fact, is that the 25th would have still been using mostly XM16E1s or the Colt Model 602. Which would have had the half fucking cage is what we call it on the or the half fucking fencing on the receiver and whatever. So like,
Is the only difference between the A1 or the major difference between the A1 and the M16? Because I just don't know. Is that because it lacks a forward assist on the
well,
A
M16?
million different.
there's a million different things. I'm not going to get too far into it. So
I don't know anything about Vietnam.
The ball,
M16s,
the bird
so,
cage,
yeah.
the forward assist.
yeah, so this right there, the M16A1, they've got that correct in the actual photo. So the XM16E1,
the fence around the magazine.
well, no, the full fence, but like so the. Never mind. I won't fucking grab mine.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
So they also the XM16E1s had a chrome plated bolt carrier, right? The A1s it was phosphate because they figured out to chrome plate the bores and they had a bunch of other shit that they did. So he's got an A1 there. All right, I'm not gonna get too nerdy on that, but like, yeah, okay, that's an A1. That's an A1. I don't know how likely that would be for this unit to have new A1s at this point, because the A1 was issued into the field to mainly the Army. Some of the Marine Corps got it, but like mainly the Army in '67. And it's like, well, this unit that was a combat unit that was in action quite frequently, probably would still have the XM16E1. But that's just a fucking nerd thing. It could. Hey, these guys could have had A1s. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It's just unlikely, in my opinion. But
At Docto a few months earlier, the whole company, a company, the 173rd that was wiped out, and 1st Battalion, and they found a lot of guys around shell holes with jammed M16s, and they were all the earlier model. And this was still in '67. So, '67 is the transitional period that you see for the Army from like the M16s that were having issues due to the powder change that nobody told the manufacturers about, which is the real reason that happened. To where you have the reliable M16. And I've literally met Marines that are like, I had a 14 all the way through Hue, like that kind of shit. So that 67, 68 is a very interesting period of time for Vietnam. It's not what you expect. As long with the uniforms and the boots.
it's also pretty
tons of
late. Like if you
niche
think about
things
it, like,
changing.
but we can debate that later. But so the Colt model, 653P. That was an experimental thing that eventually evolved into the XM177 and 177E1. So this doesn't have a forward assist on it, and it's got the full fence because it's built on a newer receiver, but they were trying to figure out how to make a carbine that would still pack the punch of a rifle. And yeah,
There were a ton of variations
Yep.
of the carbines.
Yep.
They even had one that had like a triangular handguard that had a stock
Correct.
that folded up and down the buffer tube. I forget which version of that is, but yeah, there was a bunch of different things they went around. And actually, if anybody's ever seen a real XM177 E1 or E2, that is a moderator. It's not a flash suppressor. It actually moderates the
right, and that's what they
the
did.
sound in the muzzle.
But
flash.
they don't
It has
have that on
baffles in it.
this, yeah, because it's a very,
Oh, they don't,
very
but-
fucking early, like the very early trial. It's funny because it's got a fucking okay. So go up a little, or just right there. You're fine. No, you're fine on Tom Berenger. Like, yeah, that's fine. So look at the fucking forward assist. Because on the earlier models, either they didn't have them or they would still retain the teardrop forward assist.
Yeah,
And
it's got the dot.
that's got
right
an
there.
A2 forward assist on it. Yep. And
Yep.
very interesting. And it's also got a fucking full, yeah, it's just whatever they could find to be a carbine. And yeah, you're right. On the original ones, the compensator on the end is what it's called, was not. Oh, so go up a little bit. Or no, to the, I'm sorry, the one where it's kind of blurry right below this. Okay, so that's the one that looks like it has the triangular handguards on it, right?
Well, that's got rounders on it, but yeah, there was a version. that
Yeah,
had
but like
triangular
it
handguards on
has like the fucking earlier style receiver with the like no fucking shell deflector or anything like that, and it also looks like a
Oh,
three.
brass deflector. That's a good point. Yeah.
It looks like a 3-prong fucking muzzle device.
So yeah, just so people don't understand the terminology. Earlier on, they had a 3-prong muzzle device that worked great, but the problem was it would get stuck on sticks and shit. So they changed it to a fully enclosed one, which they called the bird cage, which looks like a bird cage. So that's the difference. And sometimes guys would have you see 3 prongs all the way to the end of the war. Sometimes guys
You
would
see
change
it.
them
You
out
see them
because
through the
of change
fucking
of threads and
90s.
stuff,
You
so.
see 3 prongs.
Really?
You know,
Funny.
but like okay, so he's got that. Yeah, that's about where my knowledge ends on the ARs like that they had back there. But like it should be a 177, like a huge fucking long muzzle breaker compensator.
Yep.
So, but it's
And the later ones were made so you can put a grenade launcher on it. Because at this time they were experimenting with stuff. They had the XM148s, which were a version of the grenade launchers.
yeah, 22
and later
millimeter
on,
NATO grenade launcher. Yep. All right.
The M203s did come out by the end of the war, and they were used in country, which is kind of
Yeah, 72 they started carrying them, but
No, earlier than that, but
well, like in like when they were issued, it's like 72-ish. You start seeing them. It was pretty late.
you see them by 69.
No,
But,
you see the not in any fucking numbers.
But you still see them in country.
Again,
grenade vest,
I'm
you see
focusing on the norm,
M203s.
not the exception. So
And I'm focusing on research, which shows that they were in the country in mass.
I'm not focusing on research.
Well, I'm just saying that you're mistaken with this. There were a lot of 203s in country by 69. It's a misconception for a lot of people. We'll talk about it later. I'll show you some photos. But yeah, the Rinkos.
Mike, how's the snacks, man? They doing all right?
Oh, sorry, am I making noise?
No, it's fine. I might just join you and let them go at it, so it's fine.
No, it's not fucking worth it. It's just fucking annoying. But like,
You're just like, what? Is there anything we can talk about? No, I'm listening. I'm listening.
Yeah, I'm listening too. I don't know. I don't have a dog in this fight, so it's fine.
This I was gonna ask though, is this accurate right here?
yeah, the Type 56 very very fucking common. Actually, more common than the AK-47 and the AKM.
Interesting.
Because China was closer and they had a more direct line to North Vietnam to supply them. And the Type 56 is basically a bootleg version of the AKM. Or the AK-47 / AKM. They were still milled. A lot of them are milled receivers like you see in this picture right here. But they just put the folding bayonet like they had in the SKS there. And then also they have the full globe front sight protector instead of like the fins like on an AK-47. So, but yeah, most AKs that they found in Vietnam were Type 56s. So,
Love those spike bayonets. Always great to see.
yep.
And at the end of the movie, the one guy's talking like, "You okay?" to O'Neill, and he's like playing with a bayonet. Yep. See, there's a steel helmet.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
got
that is a. Can you zoom in on that?
See, that's like I think it's an M40 or something,
blow
but
it
it's
up?
or it's at least an East Block helmet, for sure. And again, they were used by anti-aircraft crews and
Yeah,
stuff.
it's an M40.
Yeah,
SSH-40. Well, I can't see the chin strap, but I'm going to assume because of
hard
the
to say,
placement of the
Well,
ear.
isn't that it? Isn't that it right there?
Yeah, but it's too dark. Like the shape, it's not Polish. It's Soviet.
There might be a better shot of them, but and technically they should be in khaki as well. Now that I think of it, but the few times you see them, it's really hard to tell what they're wearing because it's mostly dark. and shit.
The guys,
The NBA,
the
yeah.
uniforms. By '67, they were starting to go to the olive green.
True, but in country there were more khakis at this point. It really is not until when you have the wave of Tet that kills everybody that you have the influx of new uniforms that go to the south.
Yeah.
So
See this? Okay, so Charlie Sheen's wearing second patterns in this fucking. He's got the
Oh, yeah,
epaulets
yeah.
on there, and then the gas flap and everything. Yeah, fun.
So is that before he gets knocked out? He changes uniform.
Well, dude, it's like it's actually like through this entire sequence.
the plane did it for him.
yeah.
If you go back and like watch the entire sequence, he's in third patterns, and then he's in seconds, and then he's in third, and then he's in seconds, and then he's in thirds, and like during the battle he's in thirds, and then after the battle he's in second patterns.
Damn, so they must have not just had a solid costume for him then. So
Well, it probably took so fucking long to film all this shit. They probably
they probably had maybe those were like they had to come back for reshoots or something, and that's why it's different or something.
Or this is the one they chose to tear up, and
yeah,
they just.
Well,
those
yeah,
are
but he's
cheap
got
to tear up.
even like when he comes back from when he's wounded the first time, right? And he's smoking weed and everything in the bunker. It's like he's also switching from thirds to seconds.
does he have
And
his
it's like what?
Does he have his wristwatch like pinned to his lapel?
Buttonhole.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's-
that's a common thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Like here, I'll pull this. Oh yeah.
I used to do that when I reenacted because it's a great place to see it, especially if you're an RTO if you have to tell time. Because you're just gonna break your crystal on your watch if you have it in your fucking wrist. I've done
Yeah.
that so many times.
Same. Yeah.
So
It's annoying. That's why I wear. That's why I wear cheap reproduction watches when I do World War II because I've destroyed so many repros that I don't want to risk wearing a real one. So,
I love in the night ambush his watch fogs up. That's so legit. It looks like a cheap Psycho, which is totally correct as well for the 60s. The pig. In the beginning, it was neat to see Elias carrying it. So it made me realize, oh, that's right.
What
that
is
shows his
What
character
is this
completely.
thing right here?
It's a locally made fucking
Like a Vietnam local
yeah.
gauntlet.
The
thing. Yeah.
There's a tribe in the middle of Vietnam called the Montagnards, and they're not Vietnamese. They're like their own kind of people, and they really don't like the Vietnamese. And we aligned ourselves with them. But long story short, Montagnards, they make bracelets and stuff and things. And Montagnard bracelets were very common items you
Yeah,
bought
they're-
in country and war.
They're
and
from
stuff.
Cambodia, by the
brought
way.
home.
But like they're
Okay.
because they're close to Cambodia, that's probably why. They're
Okay.
not they're not Vietnamese, they're different.
I figured it was something local, and I just wanted.
Montagnards are mountain people, they call them. And it was the mountains between Vietnam and Cambodia. that they lived.
Those aren't. That's not the same. That's not where Rambo 3 shacks up, right?
I wouldn't know.
No, I don't think so.
That's like those are like Tibetan monks or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never seen Rambo 3.
How dare you?
Well, we're gonna change that.
That's gonna be me in the chair, like fucking, Fucker Gorge.
Yeah.
It glows blue. You know.
What does it do? Turns blue.
I see the one who's Afghanistan. That's so fucking bad.
That's
Oh my
Rambo
God.
3.
Is that?
Yes.
Well, then how is he with Montagnard?
In the beginning, he's stick boxing in the market, raising money in like some kind of market town. And then they find him in like a monk temple thing, repairing wagons and roofs.
I didn't know Rocky was a Vietnam War.
You notice that his hair just gets longer with every one of those movies. Like, but
his head also gets bigger and his nuts get smaller.
yeah,
too.
his roids increase, but his hair, I swear to God, like, I mean, it's like '80s like woman's perm hair by the third film.
I love him when they make fun of him in South Park. And they have a translator.
Mr.
Mr. Stallone would like to.
Yeah, that was me about 4 hours ago with Novocaine in my mouth, going, "Oh, yeah, what we do?"
Damn.
Anyway,
Oh, there's a very
M60.
there's a very '80s
Did-
muzzle flash right there.
Did it ever seem like The pig felt real to me, like in
Yeah,
terms of its
it's-
ciclet rate.
There's a real M60
Nice
blanks, yeah.
blanks, yeah. Nice,
These
nice.
are the crimped ends.
Over
yeah.
top. No, they're not crimped. They're the old.
No,
paper
those are the
ones.
wax.
open,
Those are the
yeah.
wax
Oh.
seal
Wax
ones.
paper
yeah.
They
ones.
work really well, actually.
Yeah,
so-
they work a lot better because they actually fucking chamber.
Yeah.
Yep. No, it chatters like it
Where
should.
was the picture?
Feed the pig, man.
That's also the arbiter with a pig. So there you go. So.
I'm glad he's wearing his fucking rounds the correct way because, like, in movies, they'll have like the fucking
Oh, that's right.
the bullets
have
like
the
it's like,
opposite.
dude, it digs into your fucking neck. They dig into your
Right,
neck
yeah.
anyway, but like, don't have the fucking rounds digging into your
The
neck.
tips don't dig into your neck. I've
Correct.
done that for a joke and it hurts.
Yeah, it's
so-
not fun.
Yeah.
Nice blanks. Nice blanks.
German reenactors usually do it because they put a 50-round belt in their Y straps and they stand up, and then they learn the pain that 8mm does. Oh, 50 cal, yeah.
Yeah, the Madus. Yep.
Good old, German naval ensign.
They're fucking tiny. Like they're not fun to ride in.
FN Mag.
That's where you're right on top.
It was an FN Mag 58, I guess, in the back,
The barrel right there.
Oh yeah.
right here, I guess.
Interesting. Yep.
Yeah.
The weapons cache.
Yeah, the 870. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Fucking boomer.
What
Boomer
does,
Bunny.
What does he look like now?
He's a.
Oh my God.
Good lord,
Oof.
that is the fakest mustache I've ever seen.
Entourage.
Oh my God.
It's also the way he's holding the A2 is
What do
like
you mean?
Yeah.
fucking. That's
Ugh.
not good.
Kevin Dillon in drama is
He was
not,
in the Blob.
as
right?
Mike
Yeah,
says.
yeah, the blob.
Mike says not good.
Not good. The blob is great.
only
though.
seen the original
The
Blob.
the 80s blob is great. The original one's hilarious, but the 80s one is
I
like
should rewatch
fucking
it, yeah.
awesome.
So just kind of something funny with a shotgun. A lot of times when people reference the scene where Elias shotguns Taylor, they'll say that he's blowing liquid hair or vaporized heroin into the fucking shotgun, and it's like, you people don't know what drugs
Wow.
are.
It's kind of funny because he takes a joint literally out of his mouth and in
Yeah.
the same scene
I know.
fucking blows marijuana smoke up
This
through
is-
the fucking.
I've seen people reference that as heroin multiple times.
He
and it's
carbon
like,
he
no.
carbon dioxides him. Like that's literally all he
That
does.
is-
Oh, go up for a sec. Go up for a sec. No, to the picture below that.
Yeah, right,
Is
that's
there
what he
tape
told me.
around A2 grips? Oh no, it's a
Yeah.
shotgun. Never mind. Never mind. That's
No.
a-
There's
no,
tape
no, no,
right
on the
there.
left side, on the left one.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
oh,
the
oh,
that's a
oh.
shot.
That's the shotgun. Never mind. I was like, what the fuck? And then I realized it was a shotgun. So cute. Yeah, I mean, they use all kinds of shotguns in Vietnam. Like, it.
Oh yeah.
They fucking.
Stevens. There was a lot of Stevens in Vietnam. I know that. Express.
Most of the guys that I talked to, they like the Ithaca 37 because you could extract it while you were prone. It would just go, it would extract down. Oh, the MH-11A1, 2 world wars.
Good old 2
What
world
about
wars.
Korea
Look.
and Vietnam?
Like that. Like I don't know what you're talking about, Mike. That's a high power Browning. Yeah. Silence.
Also, go up for a second on that helmet shot. Nah, it's every 5th round is a fucking tracer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, they
That's a little-
they fucked that up.
It's still cool to see the red though.
Is that
I like the hospital.
is that a
It's
common?
orange, now we mentioned
Was
it.
that a? I mean, who knows? But like, I don't know.
Dude,
was that to put the
no.
bolts around your helmet? Okay.
Dude, you're adding a fucking another pound and a half.
Yeah,
onto
that's
a
'cause-
fucking 2.5 pound helmet.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because I was like, I don't see the. That just
No.
seems like bullshit.
It's fucking stupid. It's just a fucking image thing.
Crocodile
Oh,
vision.
there's good old Ollie.
Yeah, that's him right there.
Yeah,
in the
Oliver
middle.
Stone in the cameo.
Huh.
He gets blown up by that
Like a
guy
2
running
seconds
into the
later.
Why is he carrying a 45 himself?
I don't know. Maybe it's just.
Is he like
2
fucking,
world wars, my friend.
Well, who was the director of Big Red One, where like he would shoot at people with a 45
oh,
outside or something?
God, what was his name? I know it. What is his name? I know it. Sam Fuller.
There we go.
Sam Fuller.
Yes. Yep. there
Yeah,
it is.
Sam Fuller was
Who
crazy.
directed the late great, what was that one we did in Korea? I can't remember now.
Oh, fixed bayonets.
Yes,
yeah.
Fixed Bandits. Funny.
Yeah, I'm
The
assuming too.
laws. The laws are wrong, but it's hard to get M66s. Even back then.
They would have had.
Need to see all the
They
tape
would have
around
had the
them, though. I like that.
72s in '67 for sure.
You see more 66s though
Okay.
for Tiltet.
No, I'm not going to argue that, but like,
The 66s were the ones that got the really bad reputation for not working. That's the ones you go through 5 of them and they wouldn't shoot because of the moisture issues. And then they fixed the firing mechanisms on the 72s and the sights as well. Need to see the blooper.
The M79. You only see it like a couple times though.
yeah, that definitely one
Yeah.
guy per fucking squad would have had one of those. So I don't know why they didn't have more of these guys in there.
Well, it depends how many they gave to the Philippines as aid.
Yeah, the
know.
rebels had him.
What they had to use.
Yep.
They had, they didn't just have HE rounds for those. They also had a giant shotgun round for it as well.
It's called canister shot. Yeah, it's fucking devastating.
So what? Just just anti-personnel, just like bam.
It's
Yeah,
literally
literally.
a 40 millimeter
trail
shot. Fucking
Good
yeah.
lord.
It's like, okay, everybody in this like 50-yard vicinity is fucked. If you're there, I don't have to see you, but you're gonna be fucked. You're gonna get hit with something.
Damn,
It's
I
kind of
didn't
like
know that.
it's kind of like grape shot clearing with a cannon.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
it was harder to get as the war went on, I believe. But yeah, they used it very heavily in the early part of the war.
They also use
when they had bloopers.
flechette rounds, as we call them.
Fléché.
And those were fucking insane. Yeah. It's like, okay, buckshot now has a point on it.
I knew an M79 guy, and they wouldn't give him a 45 for whatever reason, so he had his father buy him a gold cup and send it over to him.
What's a gold cup?
It's a commercial 1911.
Oh, I
they
didn't
made
know that was a term.
at the time.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
cool.
it's got like a horse, or it got a colt
Nice
symbol
fucking
in it.
Yeah,
D-mill
yeah,
B40 that they got on this picture here. I like that.
Oh, is he covering up the hole?
No, look at the stock photo. It's demilled. Oh, never mind. No, it's got the fucking
No, I don't see the hole.
stainless fucking plate on the. Never mind. Go down.
Good old B40. We're gonna blow the hole.
That scene was bullshit, by the way, where they're running towards him and he's just fucking like blindly firing and like he knows where they're gonna. Like that was kind of dumb.
That's just they're trying to show chaos. That's Hollywood. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's no really other good way to shoot it, Yeah.
I didn't. The one thing I didn't like is I didn't like how the camera follows.
That's what I mean. Like they're
Charlie Sheen a
running
lot, yeah.
and they're screaming down this fucking path. It's like, A, what are they going towards? B, that was the one scene where I always bitch about it. It's like that was pure fucking Hollywood, and that's stupid.
To touch on just the shots and stuff, because you mentioned earlier, like there's, it's more of a movie as far as how it's made. My favorite shot, and it's not even that like interesting or like that well done or thought out, but I liked it, was when you see Tom Berenger come out when he's about to aim at Elias, and like they're pushing through the jungle, and like,
that's
focus
the
on
only.
him.
Yeah,
that's
that's
really
that is
that's
probably
like the only
only
good shot in my opinion.
Yeah, that's probably, I would agree with you. That's probably the only like cinematic looking
yeah.
shot that I think I saw in the whole thing that stood out from the rest of the film. Like,
Yeah.
to just put a comparison to it, it's like when you see like The Revenant or like Blade Runner 2049, it's like there's a lot of shots made for cinematic ooh. This doesn't really have that. It's more traditional, uptight, good cadence, good editing, but it's not like breaking the mold. It's not like they pull it even further back. It's not the same cinematography kind of ooh like we saw in The Thin Red Line. Like The Thin Red Line has really good cinematography and really good editing. It's a shit movie, but I just sounds a little harsh. I liked it. It just wasn't for me. But the thing is, it's like it's like that has ooh. This doesn't have any real shots that really kind of do that. It kind of is the same. I hate to say that this movie, cadence and ending felt like Deliverance to me.
It's because of the jungle and the
just like the camera shots and the way it's placed, and I think that's because it's the time era. It's the 80s, 70s era of filmmaking where it's that kind of shot placement and running after the guy, and I don't know. It's just like I felt a lot of that to it.
Interesting.
Again, it's been maybe 10 years since I've seen Deliverance, so maybe don't quote me on that. But I felt
it's
like
only been 10 years. Fuck. I gotta watch it again.
It's a good ass movie.
Yeah.
You do that way too well. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
let's keep going. All right, the M26. Actually, no, they fucked this up on IMFDB. It's the M61 with the jungle clip on there. That was the fucking Never mind. They fucked that up. The nomenclature.
Did you notice Charlie Sheen had one in his hand right as the guy showed up at the end and he dropped it like he was about to kill himself?
Really?
Yeah, that's I
When?
saw that. Yeah, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And so then,
Scene.
go.
What scene was that? Because
So it's at the very
we'll
end,
go back to
right after he kills Tom Berenger. Like the guys in the vehicle show up, they're like, "Hey, are you hurt? Are you okay? Can you talk?" And he's just sitting
He's
there.
got a grenade in his hand.
He has a grenade in his hand, and when the guy starts talking to him, he throws it away.
Yeah, we have to do
pull
that
it
after
up.
we get.
I'll pull it up.
Yep.
Yeah, let's just get through this because we're probably.
So Willie Pete, I've got a replica of that fucker sitting here. Yeah, Willie
Nice.
Pete.
They're
Yep.
cool.
Yeah, burn the fucking.
Why
thing
did the
down.
Willie Pete feel like it was like a freaking grenade going off underneath? I did not like that.
Oh, dude, because they do explode and then they just burn.
yeah, but they don't. But they don't like.
You're thinking of a thermite grenade. A Willie Pete's a little
Yeah,
different.
Willie Pete,
Well,
it blows up.
Willie
There's
Pete,
sparks
to my
everywhere and
knowledge,
shit.
it does go off, but it comes at the bottom. It doesn't exactly
Nope.
explode.
You're thinking of a
Yeah,
thermite.
you're thinking of a thermite. This one,
You're thinking of the Rangers at Point Du Hoc. No,
yeah,
this isn't
no, Willie
explosive.
Pete, it blows up and it sends fucking shards of burning phosphorus everywhere.
Right. Okay.
That-
No,
that-
I know
yeah.
what Willie Pete is. I just.
No,
didn't
but
realize
that's how
there
the
was a
grenade
different
works.
grenade.
That's how the grenade
Okay.
works.
I didn't realize there was a grenade.
Same with the
okay.
mortar rounds and all that shit. Like, yeah, it's fucked up. Like, it's really not a good thing. The Type 67, nice demilled one they got as an example there with the hole. But yeah, the Type 67, man, like, it's a fucking awesome stick grenade. It's like what the M24 should have been because it takes up a lot less space. It's just, yeah.
Cheap, easy to produce, and
M18A1.
they used a lot of those in City of Life and Death.
Yeah, they're good shit. The M18A1 Claymore.
Setting in the Claymore was cool.
Dude, yeah.
I'd like that.
Claymores are fucking insane weapons. It's very
They come up a lot in this too.
yeah, it's very underrated. Like so when I went through basic, like we were still training on the tactics of Vietnam, right? Even as far late as I went to basic in 2008. When we're out in the woods, they're like, all right, every time they're like, okay, here's your ORP, right? Your objective rally point and all that shit. And here's where we're going to be staying tonight, right? You set up claymores on the perimeter. And it's like, holy fuck. And so you had to go out and like do that shit and set them up. They're training claymores. They weren't real. But like, you still had to know how to do it. And yeah, fucking insane. They're a hell of a weapon.
Yeah, in his hand right there.
Oh yeah, you're
And
right.
then he drops it right when he shows up.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh, back that up
consequent.
just a
Wow.
little bit. Just one more time. Just so yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I noticed a skull too on the bottom of the 50.
Fuck. Oh, he was thinking that those were,
Wow.
he's thinking that those were Vietnamese guys.
I don't. Well,
I think there's a scene. Obviously, there's a scene deleted or cut because look at the difference. He's just walking.
Well,
to
pause
that,
it really
and then
quick.
he-
You see that Type 56 in the ground? The bayonet? Yeah.
dude, they cut it when he leans down to pick it up. Look, because that shot, he goes down to. Yeah, they cut it out.
Yeah, he was gonna blow it up.
There must have been a whole
Huh.
like a whole thing with
Wow.
that, you know. Because here's the thing, there's no vehicle coming, so they just cut that whole scene out.
There's a cue though. I noticed this time. You hear like an engine rev before he shoots Barnes, and you don't know if that's friendly or enemy or not, which I thought was interesting.
That's what I'm saying. Is like
This whole battle's over.
He thinks it's going to be the enemy, and like
I don't think that at all. I think what it is, I think it's like he doesn't know if that's it. I don't think it's that. I think it's more of like the fact that they put that vehicle noise in there for that cut, and I feel like what they did with that is that was a whole scene where he was thinking about killing himself after what he just did. And then I think to counter that, they just show him. They put in the vehicle before the cut, and then they put in the vehicle noise all the way through that whole scene in the back. You just layer it on top, and then they just cut that scene out so they don't have that as a reference, and then you just lead into the next scene. And I think that's what happened.
You
with
can
that.
interpret it different ways.
yeah, who knows?
There's something missing there for sure.
There must be a whole like scene of just like, well, fuck
Right.
this. or
But I just
whatever.
noticed. I was like, "What the fuck was that?" And so I had to back it up.
Dude, I've seen this film a fucking dozens of times. I never fucking noticed that. So that was cool. Thanks
Yeah.
for pointing that out, actually.
Yeah.
Well, Stone is still alive. Somebody send him a letter. You know.
Hey, Ollie. Yeah. Hey, bud. We're on a first name basis.
Next time he's at a, like seriously, I mean, he's still alive. You could ask people like that. But that's very fascinating, huh?
Yeah,
Justin,
I never fucking noticed that.
Did you also notice
eye.
when the big shot of Willem Dafoe when you can see the squib device in his hand?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he drops it
funny.
because during that
Did he have
that
did he have ripped pants too, or
I don't know about that, but when he's
During the whole
reference
hands
in
up
there.
scene.
So he pulls a burned for sure.
oh yeah, but when he's running, you can see the wire going up his arm. He has the squib device in his hand, and then when they were doing that scene, when he was gonna go like this, his chest was gonna like blow up with squibs, but he didn't. He dropped it. As you can see in the take, he doesn't have it, and so instead he did the scene as he was supposed to, but then he just fell over, and they kept it like that.
All
'cause
right,
they
Nate,
thought
go
that was
back.
better.
Go back to the iconic scene. Let's.
Just no one thing
Yep.
before that. Nate, go back 10 seconds. I just want to point out something really cool. What's that little round thing on his left? What do you call it? That's near pro container. Yep, very, very common in Vietnam. They were round and they would put them there. And you see them a lot in photos, but you never see them in movies. So that's very legit.
Well, here's the thing too. Like, to pause it really quick, and then we'll go to the scene. You saw he had his first aid kit on his right shoulder facing down. He must have been a left-handed shooter then, because you're not going to have a fucking first aid kit. Although he was wearing it upside down, like most of the guys did that I've talked to, and whatever. And it's open, which means that he used it. That's fine. I get that. But he must have been a left-handed shooter because his ear pro is on his left shoulder, and that's easily moved out of the way. The first aid kit's not.
It's cool that he has the patch open, that he used it, but also that's an oxymoron because you're not supposed to use your first aid patch on anyone else except for yourself, because when you get wounded, then you don't have a bandage for yourself. So I'm just saying, it's a cool touch, but in reality, you used theirs. You know,
Well,
obviously with Sui cut.
Yeah,
Whatever,
in this situation, it doesn't fucking matter. Pause it. The guy's a captain behind him.
well,
That's fine.
it was like that supply guy who's just like, "What are you doing here?"
Could have been, yeah. The fat fuck.
yeah.
Like the role that I would have been cast in. Be like, hey.
So we can watch the iconic scene, and then there's one thing we didn't talk about. We'll talk
All right,
about.
sure.
We can, wound it up with ratings and
Yeah,
stuff.
let's see the iconic scene and see the.
Yeah, I'm
The
trying to
squib
I'm just
device.
That's fascinating about the grenade, though. I'd never
Yeah,
realized
Me
that.
either. It's awesome. So
So
it's a good touch.
let's see, I don't know.
It's funny. You don't have the music on, but I hear it in my head when I see this scene.
Right, yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
so ingrained.
Go back a little bit more, Nate.
Well, at least
Well,
I have
I mean, it's gonna
Mongolian
pop
throat
here.
music
Here
from
it
the end
is.
of We Were
It's-
Soldiers, but
No,
I don't
but
know what
like-
you're
Coming up
listening
right
to.
here.
You can no see.
Yep.
No, go
see
go
the
go
wire.
back to
I
when-
see the
Left
tube.
shoulder.
I see the tube.
Left side.
go back though when we first see him running. When we first see him running, you can see it. It's in his hand, and
Yep.
yeah, right, yeah.
He totally pulls a
Go,
bird.
yeah.
Yep.
Hey, yeah, I'm not saying that we're not guilty of this, you know.
No, it's just
Happens in
fun to
every
point out
movie.
because
Yeah.
we wouldn't know this if we hadn't done it.
Right, yeah, no, I
So,
wouldn't
you
have.
know.
But to the layman, that's like whatever, who fucking cares? But they can't tell. But when I saw it, I was like, I know what that is.
Yep. I've seen this a million times too, and I just
Been there, done that.
never fucking
It's in his left hand, so our right.
yeah. Because I saw a tube in like the later scenes.
Right.
The fucking hose, rather, not the tube.
Yeah,
See,
you're right.
Yeah.
He's
Yep.
holding it.
Oh,
in his-
there it is.
And then
Oh, there it
where's he
is.
drop it? Oh, he dropped it here.
And he
Yeah.
dropped
Oh,
it,
fuck.
but like, and so yeah, because when he goes up like
Yep.
this, they were
Yep.
supposed
Oh,
to.
it's still
go
his
off,
hand?
Yeah.
He's still trying to click it off.
Yeah, you can see
Oh
his
no,
hand
it just
doing
clicked. It just clicked. You could see, like, or maybe it clicked. It's like fucking because something went out of his fucking back.
Right, but then when he does the iconic move, he doesn't have it in his hand.
Yeah, look. Yep. No.
He doesn't have it in his hand.
Because this was done in one take. You could tell
Yeah.
it was like one take.
Oh, yeah.
One
and they
take.
just
Start
cut it.
back
This is
there.
very expensive.
Come up
They
here.
cut
yeah.
it. Yeah. And that's fucking.
But you see the
amazing.
wire really well. In a
Oh
second.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
fucking.
the wires.
It looks like a telephone
The wires
wire.
hanging out of his thing right here. Yeah.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like two
yeah,
conduit
absolutely.
one.
Yep.
It's just like
Yep.
radio wire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is like it's
Oh, look
plausible.
at that. Hold on, look at
I can't see it,
Look-
Nate.
Look at that as he
Hold
block
on,
it.
hold on. Look at his chest. Look at the thing hanging out of his pocket.
Yeah, he's all wired up.
Oh yeah, he's fucking completely that's.
So yeah, when he did that, his chest was supposed to explode, but it didn't happen.
And so he just fell.
He just fell.
It made it better. Like it's like 'cause he's been shot.
That would
fucking
be more
a million
because
times.
it would literally be Tropic Thunder.
Right. No, they thought it worked better when they saw it like that.
Shit. So one of the most iconic scenes out of any war movie of all time.
It's fucked up.
We just fucking ruined it for everyone who's going to listen to this.
Yeah, it's just the
And
most
ourselves.
obvious squib device sticking out. Yeah, it's
I
great.
had not ever. Well, here's the thing though. That says a lot about what you can get away with on a film. Is because, again, I've seen this thing fucking hundreds of times. I'm saying dozens, but like now that I think about it, like
This is-
hundreds. And
Yeah.
I never fucking noticed that. I never noticed the grenade. So yeah, it's like.
This was the first time I watched this since I made a feature-length film, doing sound with Nate and everything, and so I really was surprised at all the shit I heard where I was like, wow, that's missing. But
Yeah.
it's Platoon.
See, he's wearing
well,
seconds
fucking-
there. Yeah, he's wearing seconds, and then he goes
Yeah.
back to thirds. Yeah, it's fun shit. But yeah,
Obviously in this film, the whole village scene is referencing My Lai, in a lot of different ways.
My Lai,
And
I disagree with
My
you.
Lai. Well, it's fine, but basically, what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of reasons that those types of things happened. Sometimes they did happen during the Vietnam War,
lot of
and
times.
I do like the way that they lead it up to it occurring. It's not so, it's cut and dry, but it's not in a way, when you really think about it. When you take My Lai, for example, if you want to use it as a case study, it was dudes, in the bush forever getting sniped at, and they finally just had too much, and then fucking you just do a whole village, But there's so much anger and pent upness that really leads to it, and I really like how they kind of, show how the craziness can infect everyone, like with Taylor and that guy we shooting at his feet and stuff, and it really shows how madness is contagious at certain times. They keep talking about Manny and the engineers and things, and but it really is well done, and it shows how ordinary people in a way can do these horrible things. And I think it's just worth mentioning, or at least talking about.
It is worth talking about, and I will say, you've read a lot of memoirs, right? And
Too many.
yeah, so people that I've talked to that were just average grunts, that was the policy, Army, Marine Corps, is if they suspected that the village was harboring VC or supplying them, they'd burn everything to the fucking ground. And they would just go, okay, now they don't have a supply chain anymore. It wasn't always based on hate or revenge or whatever. It was just a policy. In this case, sure, they killed one of their guys. They did it in a fucked up way. They got pissed. But it's also something that they're going to do anyway. These people, the U.S. forces in Vietnam, the combat arms, and the rock guys also, which we'll talk about in a future episode. Yeah, it's like, okay, we found X amount of VC hiding here. You have a shitload of supplies. We found guns. You're harboring them. Your village is now going to be burned to the fucking ground. That was the policy. That was their mentality. It was like, well, if we just, it's scorched earth. If we burn it all to the ground, then they won't have any supplies, blah, blah, blah. In reality, it doesn't work. It just makes more VC, right? Which they learned after the war. But that was a very, very common practice. And I've talked to guys that were just there, were not malicious. They didn't hate the Vietnamese. They were just doing what's been done because this is our policy. This is how we roll. Bam. And they showed it in this film. It wasn't a reference to My Lai per se, because My Lai was fucking insane. It was because we'll get into that on a different fucking note. Casualties of war, we can do that. But
yeah, I just mean the same formula that went into My Lai, even though on a larger scale, played into what they tried to depict here. And just to touch on what you said, the thing is too, when you look at the photos of guys in Vietnam burning down villages, that's usually because they're clearing out areas for free
Brian,
fire zones.
Who's
that was
going
a big
to
thing
take
in the
photos of them burning down a fucking random village?
There's tons of press photos and photography
but like
of them
as
burning
many
down
of these,
villages.
like
and
in this
stuff, but-
case, in this particular case,
in the film, the guy's Bunny's taking photos of the whole thing.
yeah, how many of those photos actually got out, and how many, like, you know what I mean? Like it's
Oh, no, but-
it wasn't something
but
that
I'm
like,
saying
guys
that if
were
you-
proud of. They were just like, oh, it's what we do.
Yeah, but that's the thing. But a lot of times it's misconstrued because that's just guys clearing out villagers. It's not them massacring villagers and like. burning
Oh,
down the
correct.
villages.
Milai was
That was-
they lined them
Yeah,
up and
but-
fucking they were just going on a rampage. Yes.
Yeah, but I just mean like when people usually show photos of Marines or guys smiling burning down villages, it's because that was a South Vietnamese government sanctioned area that was ordered. The inhabitants was ordered out, and they were told to destroy the infrastructure to stop the NVA or having a support base.
Correct.
And that would just be a free fire zone. Like you fucking see shit moving, you shoot it. That's kind of like what they touched on in Full Metal Jacket with the helicopter gunner. Because when they were in certain zones, you see movement, you fucking shoot at it. That's not everywhere, but that's where all that comes from.
So yeah, I get what you're saying as
Yeah.
far as like how they're portraying it in the film. Yes, I get that.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's not
It's
out
just
of the
that
realm of
animosity that gets built
possibility.
up.
And yes, there was probably aggression at some points, of course, because it's a fucking war. People do shitty
Yeah.
things in war. I don't give a fuck what side you're on. Everybody does shitty things. But yeah, it like we were saying earlier, it like all comes back to the whole let's get everything that we possibly can from the entire Vietnam War and put it into a film.
Exactly.
Yep.
But that saying though, as horrible as this sounds, it's tastefully done in a sense. It's not Americans being like, let's fucking kill these guys. It's like, no, there's a
Let's burn their homes, which is even worse.
there's a journey from point A to point
Correct.
C.
There-
Yes.
And they do show that here. It's not just like Americans being brutally to show that the war was bad. It's like there's always a cause and effect, and it doesn't justify anything, but there always is a cause.
Well, that's why when the Vietnamese forces, the VC and the NVA, would go into American bases, or I should say coalition bases, right? They would do the same shit. They just burn everything to the fucking ground that they possibly could see, because it's like burn their infrastructure, they'll leave. They have nothing then, and it's like again, it's a war. Like people I think get a really glorified image of war from movies, and it's like, oh, whatever. No, wars are terrible. Like it is literally the worst fucking thing that can happen. And people are at their worst when you're in a war and you're in that situation.
Yeah, there's a, if I can just jump right in, there's a
Yep.
I know you guys have had to have seen this interview. There's a famous interview on YouTube with Marine Vietnam veteran Bill Earhart or something like that. I think.
Yeah. I've seen that one, I think. Yeah.
Right, yeah, and he talks about that. He's like, you're in the country and doing all of this horrible things. You're getting shot at, but like you never see where it's coming from.
Yep.
It's eventually implanted in your brain that everyone is an enemy. That like all of these people, no one can be trusted and stuff like that. And it's,
Yep.
I think that's a large part of it too.
Yeah, and the villagers are literally caught in the middle. I've done a lot of research into NVA and VC, tactics and things, and it's very interesting, the support base and stuff. And they really were caught between the Americans and the tax collectors and the rice, dealers. And
Oh, they had a
all
lot
those
of
things.
politics to endure.
Yep.
Yep.
There are tons, and it's very interesting. So yeah, the South Vietnamese hamlet, villagers, they really were having two wars. What do you do?
Well, it's just like
You give your son away to one side, and the Americans show up, and
it's like a lot of wars. So for example, Italy in World War II, right? When the Allies started going into Italy, the same shit happened there. It happens in every fucking war, right? But to make it more relatable, like Italy is like, this country, everybody, oh, beautiful, so much history. There was a civil war going on in Italy during World War II where people that had nothing to do with it had these people coming in at night saying, hey, you're going to support us, right? We're fellow Italians. Okay, yeah, sure. And the next day, you've got these other guys, these Italians and allies coming in saying, oh, you're supplying our enemy? Well, no, they're Italians. No, they're our enemy. Fuck you. Everything you have is gone now. And it's like, it happens in every war, and that's what happened in Vietnam is, okay, so you get a village like a hamlet, right? Just people that they're living off the land, like very rural. Okay, maybe there's one or two people that join the cause, right? But like, you get the Viet Cong that come in there at night and go, hey, you have rice, you need to give us this much We're gonna store these weapons here. Okay. And then the Americans or the South Viet or the ARVN or the ROC guys go in there the next day and they go, oh fuck, and they do exactly what's shown on the film. And it's like they're not in this fucking war. But now they're affected, their homes are gone, their food is gone, their livestock is fucking dead. And it's like when you say it's tastefully done, I agree with you because it shows just how fucking stupid and how people, not evil people can do evil things for the sake of just survival and I need to get the fuck out of here. This is what I'm told to do. If I can just do this, that gets me one step closer to going home. And that's how the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese thought. A lot of them, like the NVA rather. A lot of them were not like fucking hardcore communists, right? If you look at that, and they weren't ideologues, but they were just like, hey, if I do this, if I can get these guys out of my country, that's one step closer to me going home. So
most of the NVA were college-age kids that were recruited from cities, mostly Hanoi and places like that, and they'd never been in the jungle, and the first time they went down the trail was the first time that they were in that kind of environment. Totally different from the experiences that you get from reading memoirs, and basically mirrors what the Marines talk about versus the real accounts of the IJ in the Second World War. You have in the Vietnam War of like they tote their enemy up to these incredible jungle fighters that can live off snakes and dead rice, and it's like that's a fucking emaciated like 17-year-old kid.
Yeah, because here's the thing, right? Is like they're terrified of them. You know, you're terrified of your enemy because they're shooting at you, they're bombing you, they're doing this, and then that's why I do like I love watching videos of like American Vietnam veterans going back to Vietnam now because you can, and they reconnect with people that were probably not shooting at them directly, but like they were enemies, 60 years ago. And it helps them find peace. And they're like, hey, I was terrified of you guys. Like the Americans, like we get into a firefight with Americans. That's why we fucking DD'd them out. We got the fuck out of there because we knew you guys were going to call in airstrikes, all artillery. We were going to be dead. We were terrified of you. And then the Americans were like, well, shit, we were terrified of you. Like, we didn't know where the fuck you were shooting us from. And so, time heals a lot of things. And, with this thing is like, it shows the brutality of like, when you're in that time period, when you're actually there, when you're doing when you're doing other people's bidding, basically, and you're just blindly trying to kill people you don't know, it's just fucking insanity. It's fucking... You can't think about it. Like you can't wrap your head around it unless you're actually there. And I think that's what Platoon actually does well, is like the insanity part of it. It's like, because a lot of times, in the little firefights, the skirmishes they get in, you don't see the enemy. And I did like that too about like, I'll really quick bring up another film, but like we'll go back to this. Forrest Gump.
Yeah, I was
They get
thinking
into that
about
ambush, right? You see shadows walking or running in the background. That's all you see of them.
Yep.
That's it. Because Forrest didn't know where the fuck he was shooting. Nobody knew where they were shooting. Let's call in artillery, okay?
And then something came up and bit me in the butthole.
I was about to say it, but I
Yes.
didn't want to interrupt you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But even that's great too, because he's doing something he doesn't see the enemy.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know where the fuck he came from. Like
That's what it felt like to him.
it's like some random guy probably was like scared shitless, laying on the ground, like, oh, there's an American, bam, popped a couple shots, and then whatever. It's like, so that's what, like, that's, some part, and like, the last battle is like that because it's chaos. It's like, you got flares up, it's at night, and you don't, until they're like right up on you, you don't fucking see them. There's just gunfire happening. And
I was just going to say, there's just very minimal shots of them prepping and or moving into position, and then before that you don't really see them at all until they're up on that first walking into the ambush scene.
Well, and the Vietnamese guys,
and before and after that you don't see them anymore.
Right, and the NVA is also using tactics. They're not just running like a lot of films we've reviewed where they're just running. They're actually going, okay, here's how we're going to do this. Here's the objective. Here's where we think they are, and you can tell they're moving methodically. And it's terrifying.
They have Chinese wave tactics at the end, but it's because they're bum rushing the line because there's
What
an
are
opening.
you doing here?
And like, yeah, so like, but like the differences between like that and, the difference between that and Danger Close is that
Yeah.
you only see them having tactics in the very beginning engagement of Danger Close, but in the rest of the time it's just rushing man
waves,
charges. Yeah.
And it's like, and so at
yeah.
this point in Platoon, like when they're actually doing the bum rushing, well, Americans would do that too because it's like, okay, we're on the fucking objective, run the fuck up there, take it, we got him by the ass.
I mean, We Were Soldiers is an example of that. Like they technically do a Chinese, bonsai chart or Japanese bonsai charge, and the end of We Were Soldiers because they're pushing that objective.
And they know they've got him.
And,
It's like they're weakened.
that's my job.
Lay me down
I know.
on the cold ground. Wherefore many men have gone. But no, it's like, so that's why like I don't hate, and also the Vietnamese forces were not portrayed besides that one scene that I bitch about, like the whole running forward, whatever. But that's one scene out of the entire film. The Vietnamese forces were not portrayed as just mindless fucking retards. You know, they were portrayed in this film, and I think Oliver Stone, whether he intended to do that or not, like, you know, in his writing, they came across as, they're formidable as fuck. They're a well-trained, good enemy, and they inflict casualties on us. We do too, but like it's just a fucking, it's a bloodbath. And it's like, you know, whatever. And they weren't portrayed as like these fucking savages, like whatever, you know, the American propaganda shit. They're portrayed as, we have a problem here. Like we have a huge problem and we can't probably deal with it. And that's the part that I actually enjoy about Platoon is like the respect that's given towards everyone involved. So, yeah.
Leading into that, because we should probably jump into ratings.
Oh, yeah,
Do you want to lead off a rating since you pretty much were leading the charge on that, or?
I'll say one thing and we
Okay.
can go to the ratings. Just to touch on all the stuff, you know, about how horrible war is and things. When everything was over and they have the grenade scene, we'll now refer to it as that, you know, right at the end of it. I had this funny thought for the first time when I watched it this time. And I was like, you know, everybody in this situation is not from where they are right now. These guns are made in China. These Americans are from across the ocean. These NVA guys are from 2,000 kilometers north of here. All this production and manpower and effort went into killing each other in this random fucking patch of jungle that nobody cares about, you know? And like, if that doesn't sum up the Cold War, I don't know what does. Like, cause it's like, what the fuck? All this energy and things and toolings and just so that you can, you know, get it covered in blood in a place nobody gives a shit about. Like, it's just interesting to think about it, you know? And that's what modern war really has become. It's just become this grueling.
Well, that's why, you know, we talked about Hamburger Hill. The end of that, I like that because it factors that in a lot. And
yeah,
so it's like, and that's the problem with like, you know, with modern war is like, nobody gives what the fuck was the point? There's no front line. There's no objective. There's no pushing the bad guys back on a large scale. It's just a bloodbath in some piece of land that nobody fucking is ever going to know about.
It's pumping arms and money into a proxy civil war
Correct.
that you blow up out of proportions, and for what reason?
Yep.
You know, but it's funny I saw that, like all the detritus at the end. I'm just like, you know, why? It's like everything where they are, nothing is from there.
Right.
You know, everything had to be brought to that point so they all could fucking murder each other.
Profound way of looking of thinking about it.
Yeah, I don't know. Just hit me towards the end.
Yeah, it's profound and it's also real. It's very fucking realistic. And it's like,
So, well, if you're still listening, it's time to move into ratings.
Okay, I'll go first this time. So
you have the talking helmet.
The talking helmet. Yeah, I would do that if my headphones would cooperate. But like, I'm just gonna wear the boonie for now. So this has been, again, like I've said, I've seen this thing 1,000 times. Like I started watching when I was a kid because my dad watched it and everything. And it's a movie. I know that. And the older I get, like the more I realize, the more experience we have. Like we you know, in the business now, we know that, and I'm noticing different things. But like, it's still, for somebody on the surface level to like get a slight taste of what the Vietnam War was like for U.S. forces versus Vietnamese forces. I don't think it's terrible at all. And I think it's a good like stepping stone into getting into like learning more about, oh, what's this fucking electric strawberry they're wearing on their shoulder, 25th Infantry Division, and all that stuff. And technical shit aside, there wasn't a lot of technical shit that was bad, actually. So there was just a few things, but we already touched on that. And the acting was good. I'm just trying to think really quick about something. I always miss something because Platoon is a pretty fucking widely known film, and so I want to make sure I kind of hit.
This is probably our biggest blockbuster we've done. Well, this is bigger than Black Hawk Down.
This is bigger than Black Hawk Down. It is definitely.
In my experience,
It definitely is.
because it's that gold standard of Vietnam.
It is, and I think just everything about it is. If somebody, okay, how about, we'll just put it this way: if somebody came up to me that didn't know anything about history or just dabbled barely, like put their toe in and whatever, and they're like, "Hey, could you recommend a movie about the Vietnam War?" I would say start with Platoon. I wouldn't say that's the end all be all, but like start with that, kind of get the feel of it, how insane it was and how it's just chaotic, and the personal struggles and all that shit. I would say start with that because again, like we've all got the same story. Like a lot of Vietnam vets are like, yeah, Platoon is probably the closest. Okay, sure. That's also the most mainstream that most of those guys have seen, right? And it's no fault of their own, but like I would say start with Platoon and then branch out from there and like your curiosity expands and whatever. But again, it is a movie, which I just said. And overall rating, I'm sure I missed a bunch of shit to whatever, but like let's keep this relative. We've already been going for a long time. So overall rating, I'm actually giving this an 8 out of 10. For the content, the technicalities, cinematography had some issues, and the editing, cinematography slash editing had some issues. Forgivable though. And just again, the stepping stone to get people kind of aware of like, okay, it did happen in 67 and 68. This is what you're going to see. Technical shit aside, but like, yeah, so 8 out of 10. Nate. Oh wait, no, you go last. You haven't seen it before.
Oh, okay.
Brian.
So you bring up a lot of good points and stuff, and I can't really reiterate everything we said over the last 2 hours because we really just covered it in detail. But it is a very good movie. It's a very well-known movie, and just taking everything we've said into consideration, I'm going to give this a 9.5 out of 10. And my reasoning is that it's the Vietnam War in a 2-hour length of time. Yes, it shows things that didn't happen on everyone's tour. Yes, it's not like a generalization of things, but it's one platoon's experience for a short period of time. And yep. I think if somebody's interested in Vietnam, if you want to watch one movie about it, if you watch this, you'll get it. You'll get the most of the gist. You can go into films that are more specialized, like We Were Soldiers about 65 or 66 Ladrang, or Hamburger Hill, or Danger Close, or like you can get really close in like to the specialized shit if you really want to. But if you weigh this movie on a platter, if you cut out any part of it, it doesn't hold up. But the way it is now, it's Vietnam in a 2-hour segment. And because of that, I think it's great. It has some issues, like everything, some technical issues. We were talking about the squibs and things. But I really feel like it's just so ingrained in culture and just set the bar so high so early on, 11 years after the war ended, that it deserves that rating. It's not like Apocalypse Now. It's not like really anything else, And when we get to SPR, which has a similar cult following in the States, I'm not going to take that into the consideration of the my score because I view that differently. Platoon just did so much for Vietnam vets and getting their kids to kind of understand, for right or for wrong, like
just
what
get a taste.
Maybe you would have experienced. Yeah, there's really nothing else that just in a 2-hour segment you're like fuck. So 9.5. It's like it just for me, it's the gold standard of Vietnam films. From the American perspective, I'll bring it out to that. So, and that being said, I'd love to hear your opinion, Michael.
Yeah, the quality of the movie and like the impact that it had as a cultural milestone is definitely something that should be understood and taken taken a value and all that stuff. I like I say, it's definitely not my favorite war film, not my favorite Vietnam War film, but I do understand why it was such a big deal at the time and still is. I think there's a lot of things in it that are very well done. So on that, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. Yeah, and now we will finally go to Old Bay Nate.
Yeah, so I guess being the only one who hadn't seen this fully all the way, it did not disappoint. It held up pretty well, for me at least. There were a few things that I think I'd mentioned before, which is the cliche, but then I have to remember that this was probably setting the cliche of most Vietnam films after this. And so I had to take it with a grain of salt in that regard. But overall, I mean, the cinematography was, good. Wasn't bad. The editing wasn't bad. Special effects, except for the jet, were pretty good. Little nitpicky things. I mean, I don't know much about the historical context, with weapons, other than the obvious and the gear, other than the obvious. But nothing's really stood out in that regard. So. I did do some research while you guys were talking, and something I wanted to check in I forgot to talk about was Platoon had a budget of $6 million, which I thought was really, really admirable but it's also 1987 era, so I'm not entirely sure what that would be.
Probably like 15,
but,
20 nowadays.
Yeah, something like around there. But the crazy thing is they made $137 million. I mean, that's and the movie studio is Orion, and they did RoboCop and First Blood and Dances with Wolves.
So they installed a money printer in their studio.
Yep.
Well, and then they went bankrupt in like '95, I think.
Too much coke.
Yeah, so
Oh, that sucks, man.
but then actually they just booted it back up. I was reading about that as you guys were talking. They booted it back up in 2020, and Amazon bought it, and they're in negotiation. I think they bought it or were in negotiations with Warner Brothers or Disney. They were bidding for it, and I think Amazon bought it. So I think Amazon owns most of the rights for most of the Orion pictures now.
Well,
but
that might mean something good for future movies. Orion was notorious for being very kind of hands off and letting their filmmakers be creative.
yeah. It'd be interesting going into it, but it overall, I mean, I wasn't disappointed. I liked all the acting in this movie. We talked about that, a lot, and I liked a lot of the things that you guys had kind of talked about, historical context. So, I mean, I don't know why, but it's not going to get a 9 from me, but I think it's going to get an 8. I enjoyed it. I don't know what's bringing it down, but it just felt like an 8 to me. So I'm going to give it 8 Scream Mel Gibsons out of 10. But I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm probably going to end up watching it again, in the background, just to kind of digest it more. I think the whole, William Dafoe, even though it is a pinnacle thing, the whole thing of William Dafoe getting killed by
Tom
Barnes,
Berenger.
I don't know. It just felt weak.
Yeah, in my opinion, that is the weakest part of the movie. The parts where they're just bullshitting and being GIs, that's where the movie shines.
Yeah, that's where the movie shines, and then it's oh, you disagreed with me, and you're gonna I get it. He's gonna report him. He's gonna follow through with a military hearing and all that stuff. I get the push of that wanting to do that, but the killing of it, I just feel like is an extreme, which I get. They're trying to point out about the madness infecting other people so far that it's letting him kill his own guy. I get it, but it felt just a little
I agree.
cliche. But again, that's cliche after this movie, so that's how I feel. But it's just how I feel. But I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10.
So don't feel bad. Really quick, Brian, before you give us the final total. My wife, we watched it a few months ago because I just got a wild hair at my ass to watch it again. And she's like, it's pretty boring. And I was like, really? Like, she's like, yeah, I mean, it's a war movie. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, really? So that's like the first, she's never seen it. And she watched it, she's like, yeah, it's a war movie. So it's like, to that audience, you know, that has to watch it with people or whatever. Yeah, I can see where it's like it. That's why I couldn't give it more than an 8 either, is because I take that into consideration. Is like, okay, people that are interested in history, maybe they'll like it, but like most people, it's just kind of it's a war movie.
Yeah.
And
to me, it's more than that. To me, it was engaging enough. Like I didn't look at my phone, anything like that. Again, it's just, I think it's the time with the push. But again, still a good movie. If you're like me and you haven't seen it, watch it.
It's definitely worth the watch. 150% worth the watch. I would recommend it to anyone, anytime. That's why I made her watch it. And it's like, she didn't dislike it, and like I've never met anybody that like disliked it, and there was like, shit, whatever. The worst case is, it was boring, but it's like, okay, she's also not a history nerd, you know, and okay, it's a war movie, and like that's fine. The worst case you want to be in a film is neutral, you know.
Brian,
so
score.
Putting the scores into the computer that will tell us if we're going to win the Vietnam War. We get an 8.1 out of 10.
So the old reference works, because that's what you used to say all the time. Yeah.
Well, did we win the Vietnam War?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Am I a man? Why, technically, yes, I am.
Is this real? Is this real?
Yeah. No. It's
8.1. Yeah. I mean, that's
very good
for you know, because we're pretty fucking harsh on scoring these films.
True.
We're douchebags. Well, most of us, including myself. But no, it's like 8.1 is that means it's a solid fucking recommendation. Watch it.
Oh yeah.
If you haven't before, which
you know.
Yeah.
I always tell people if it's over like a 5, you should give it a chance.
Correct.
No, if you have an interest, you should watch it, even if it's bad.
Oh, true. We know we do
if
say that.
If you make a bad decision, it's just life you learn from it, you know. But opinions are gas holes, as they say.
It's the opposite of a waste of time. How about that? It's the opposite of a waste of time.
Oh, fuck yeah. Well, actually, it is a waste of time because you're going to want to watch it again, which is like, instead
but
of
it's not
2
a
hours
waste,
gone,
though.
that's 4, and then that's 6.
Hyena Road is a fucking waste. Midway is a waste.
Yes.
So it's time well spent.
Things.
That's the opposite of a waste of time. It's time well spent.
It's an investment.
Yeah,
We've come full circle.
We waste our time so you guys don't have to.
That should be the tagline of our podcast.
we waste our time so you don't have to.
For your enjoyment.
Jesus, how fucking arrogant is that? But like, it's true.
Jamie, write that down.
Jamie, pull it up, Jamie.
Jamie, write down.
Try the frog's gay.
So, thank you guys for joining us. And, you know, for all you FNGs in country, just think positive. You know, like count up. You know, like count the months and stuff. You know how you're going. And make sure to keep your pecker hard and your powder dry, and things will be all right, baby. It's just 365 and a wake up. And we'll catch you guys next week.
Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a rating. Otherwise, Mel Gibson won't stop screaming. If you like this content, make sure to check out our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram pages. If you want to directly support our work, make sure to check out our Patreon. All these links are in the description below. Until the next time, Scuttlebutt out.